Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Today is April 5th, 2023, and super positive to report to you. This is level 1, lesson 15. This is going to be really great teaching because, again, I go over my notes and watch my previous videos from the past, like whatever, 9 or 10 years ago when I first did this. And I got last night such a very clear sense of what I needed to say in terms of being able to offer you very real guidance or effective information and perspective on where you are in the journey right now. So first of all, it's such a good lesson. This is of the level 1 material, lesson 15. It's called intentional use of energy. And this teaching is basically all about, let me just mute everyone, not because I don't love you, but because it does help the audio, the quality of the audio. And hello, welcome, Pedro. So good to see you. Lovely long-term returning student coming back to be a part of our class. The best information and perspective I can give to you on where we are in the journey right now. So the teaching from 10 years ago, I'm very clear to talk about. It is about your chakras being sentient light beings that can be defined as your own higher self, not as something that is an extraterrestrial or otherworldly creature or anything other than you. And also, should I pull up a picture of the chakras? I should. I did not. I prepared for class. I squint and scroll, but I did not pull up the picture that I need. So hold on one second. Thank you for your patience while I do this, because I think that will be, I know I'm making funny faces. I know I'm making funny faces. I can't see myself right now, but I watch myself later in the videos and I'm like, that's such a funny face. Okay, good. Let's pull up a picture of the chakras and be able to show you what I'm talking about. And I do thumbnail for me only. There we go. So these are your chakras, spinning wheels of energy that are comprised literally of possibilities, probabilities, light, and time. And that these represent your higher self. And this class is called Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans because you are a full spectrum human, meaning all the way from red, where I'm wiggling my cursor here, is traditionally looked at as the root chakra, but your physicality, your entire physicality presence, like what I'm touching right now that just ate my lunch. This is my physicality presence that is red in my somatic cellular body. And all the way up through all of these more subtle layers, all the way up to what we call the crown, which is your own divine connection and beyond. That, oh, beautiful. I'll read your comment in just a second there. That you comprise the totality of this. So when I talk about, there has been in the past an artificial bifurcation right about at this level, the level of yellow, which is the verbalized mind. Verbalization is an implantation and not our native consciousness way of being able to communicate to ourselves or others. So this phonetic symbolic language that we use, sound, compression waves and sound, is not our primary way of communicating. Our primary way of communicating is telepathically. And I've described myself also as not only telepathic, mind to mind, but empathic, meaning empathy and what I feel. That is my true language. And it is yours also. Like we are similar. We are similar types of beings. There's not really a bifurcation between lower self and higher self. So when I was making this initial video recording 10 years ago, I was speaking to a world and a community that was still very much talking about the difference between the ego self versus the higher self. And so a lot of what I've emphasized in this class over 10 years is the integration, the removal of blockages that have to do with your talking mind and the perception and creation of the barrier known as the ego, which is the definition of self as an individual. But you can refine the membrane of who you are as ego in order to include other organisms. Like when I point to the planet back here, your ego state can encompass the entirety of the ecosystem and the planet herself or itself. Your ego can encompass all organisms, like my dog. And that might sound weird, like I am your dog. Yes, you are my dog. And because your consciousness, pure light, and divine God self itself, because that is what the unity consciousness perspective truly is. So as we've been on this journey for 10 years, you have this integration of higher self and lower self. And the original teaching from 10 years ago is very beautiful, and I'm going to go into it. It is about how even something that was in vogue 10 years ago, string theory, which is something from the realm of human academia and teaching about physics and the rules that govern five senses reality, that is no longer talked about quite as much in terms of the resolving the differences, the distinctions between the quantum state and Newtonian physics. Don't worry, I'm glossing over. I'm going to get into details, and I don't want to overwhelm because I have had caffeine today and I know I'm moving fast internally. A bridge of these two different types of reality structures, flying rainbow lasagna as a bridge within my own body between matter and energy, and basically getting up to light speed. And this is actually a really worthy original recording to delve into, because I think it's one of the ones that got cherry picked by whatever exploitative organizations or agencies have gone through my work and then taken aspects of it and weaponized it, twisted and distorted it against you. I'm smiling, but not like an idiot, like a person that's like, oh, like I see what's going on. I see the shell game, the imposter ship that's going on. I talk a lot about 3D versus 5D. So I'm going to talk about the baked cookies of reality and what 5D as a bakery of reality actually is. Oh, it's interesting. Like my screen just flickered like there. So, because sometimes I think that might achieve scrutiny by talking about certain things, even in a private meeting like this. Oh, Pedro's very sweet. Thank you for that. He says, your squinting looks good. Don't worry. Thank you for that confirmation. I always feel like I look very silly. Before I start going, let me read Melissa's comment. She says, your notes to this class really helped me realize that my body is equipped to experience by energy centers, my energy centers. Your body is equipped to experience your energy centers. Thank you. You're so very welcome. So yes, one of the values of being tuned into the class as an official student is I always send out the welcome email with the Zoom link to be here live. And I always include my lecture notes, which is what I look at when you see me looking off to the side over here. It's what I go over myself in order to refresh my memory. And I think that people learn very well through various different neurological input streams, some of which are visual. That's when I draw my pictures and my diagrams, some of which are auditory. Some people learn best by hearing something explained to them. And some people learn best through reading, even though words are an artificially implanted symbolic language structure, and reading and literacy is then another layer of artificiality on top of that. It is a modality that some people feel very comfortable with in terms of comprehending concepts, to see something written out. And also I solidify in my own self, even though I would say language and words are like way down here on the list, artwork and color and music and dance and abstract gesture, abstraction is where I am really most comfortable swimming around in terms of communication. But way on down the list, I do find that when I labor to articulate something with what I jokingly call the flapping of my moving mouth parts. Welcome to our one of our new students today, because you don't even know all of my my old tired chestnut jokes, my old dad jokes that everybody knows at this point. But the flapping of my moving mouth parts, that takes so long to be able to communicate what I'm telepathically broadcasting to you also directly into your mind. There's a value to that because I have to kind of slow down. Michelle says, I receive images as well. Beautiful. I'm telepathing with you right now. When I take the time to send all of that information through my fingertips, either through typing or through writing. And P.S., those are actually two different neurological pathways, if you ever explore that. To write with a pencil is different, also different than drawing, also different than typing. All of these things are different neural pathways. So there's a value in going over the notes, is the synopsis of everything that I just said. And I send them out as a part of this class. And if you're catching me on YouTube, you're also invited and encouraged to access my class notes for each class I keep it as a PDF that I now call the Flying Rainbow Lasagna Flight Manual that is available in a Dropbox file that you don't have to pay a fee in order to be able to access. And you have my permission to be able to download it, save it, print it out, and even quote from it with giving me a reference or a credit that that's where you got it from, because I feel that this information is so valuable to be able to share with the world. I don't want to keep it behind a paywall. But voluntary contributions, of course, to support my work are always celebrated and appreciated. In level 1, lesson 15, this is where one of the times when I really talk about 3D versus 5D. I was talking about this 10 years ago before it was really a thing in the community of seekers. When I talk about cherry picking from my work, I really do feel that there are some aspects of what I teach that have been not stolen, but misappropriated and taken out of context and then used in a way that is to confuse and misguide you. And I am here to be like, harumph, I do not appreciate this confusion and misguidance, and I truly wish to clear the air. So I will clarify what is going on when I talk about 3D and 5D, and even make a distinction between how that has been culturally misappropriated and then applied to your journey. So, okay, and I'm drinking a lot of my beautiful structured water today. It's a marathon. Higher self and lower self, we now in this class find to be a meaningless distinction, because we have created either a seamless continuum that encompasses all of our many multiple layers of being, and we identify as all of these layers of self, all the way up to God, that I include everyone and encourage everyone in this class to include in their identity self as God. This is in no way intentioned to be a blasphemy or religiously insulting. It is meant to be an honor, celebration, and recognition, and homecoming, and desired outcome of remembrance of self as God. And it is also meant to be inclusive. So although I love and appreciate everyone who's on their religious journey, one of my mild criticisms of some aspects of religion is the sense of externalizing or outsourcing God, which is an inner aspect of generative force field and self, and then praying to or supplicating oneself to that externalized aspect of self. But really the homecoming is a re-encompassing, a bringing back together, or a rejoining with the totality presence. And you're like, oh, I am God. That's what the experience is really like, of course. And that statement, when you have that experience, I am God, does not preclude others from having that experience, including my dog, a redwood tree, a microbe, the planet, or galaxy, or any other person that is here. Yes, remembering, you got it, Michelle. It is honoring of that aspect of ourself, and then the reality aspect of reality creation and shaping reality becomes a partnership. And so the original lesson from 10 years ago is about an idealized partnership. I really cried last night. I was sitting in my garden, actually outside under the stars, had my little my little tablet outside, and I'm watching this video that I did 10 years ago, and recognizing the purity from which I recorded that and how different it is right now in this present circumstance. And sometimes I have to allude to our circumstance because of the unmentionables. Like on Facebook, I recently got a hand slap because I mentioned the unmentionables, and I want to maintain my YouTube channel because there's so much good stuff that's been archived there over my 10 years of being sharing and recording these videos. So please understand, I'm not assimilated. I'm not a coward. I'm still my true self. The things that are more incendiary, I share on Vimeo and I share on my Patreon, but I might use some allusions or allegories or symbolic representations in order to talk about these unmentionables. But here's the basis of what's happening here. I talk in lesson 15 about reconnecting with higher self and opening yourself up to higher self-guidance. Highest self-guidance is how we should think about it. And the way that I exemplify it in my visual diagrams, and I can draw it for you here, but basically just look at the paintings behind me and what's on my dress over here. These are very specific, non-arbitrary, highest dimensional patterns. That's my home world. It's where I come from. I stand behind it, and I stand behind it because it is a place of truthfulness. Again, non-arbitrary. When I do my paintings, that's actually one of the highest standards that I face. Like, you could do anything. You could just put together a bunch of random circles and be like, da-da, a painting. And no, for me, I'm like, I actually look at like my shoulders went down, because it's like, yeah, it takes me a year to do a painting because it's non-arbitrary, because it actually means something. And that is the divine architecture that I am trying to faithfully represent from what I see internally, using my highest self, higher faculties, Christ guidance. When we say Christ, like, I have to make all these distinctions. It's why sometimes it might be easier to say like highest self or cosmic consciousness. But I would like to honor that meta organism that I'm a part of and that you are a part of too. Because you have this insight, this eye of insight, that is your eye of telepathy, that you use not only to perceive and to receive, but to send out. And that is what it is to be on this network and on this path of light. So I cried last night because I was watching this video, and I just recognized that everything that I was talking about in terms of opening yourself to higher guidance, and that as an embodied organism, the biological self and the biological based mind tends to be unpredictable. And that's beautiful, because part of Flying Rainbow Lasagna is unpredictability. We love unpredictability. That's like John Coltrane or Jimi Hendrix. Like, every time you play it, it's not going to be the same. That would be boring. You'd have to be like, wow, like, I'm going to do it a little bit different every time. But that if you're too all over the place, you lack coherence and you lack longevity. And what highest self has is a beautiful structure that, again, is non-arbitrary. And it is like a trellis around which we can base our own mind patterns. And the thing that upsets me and challenges me is that I recognize in this moment, in the level of reality that we're in right now, there's all these towers that emit vibrations that are a substrate of lies that you don't want to open yourself up to. And pretty much since they turned on those towers full blast, like 2 or 2.5 years ago, I'm a telepath, and I've heard those towers instead of my own higher self. And not only that, but the people who participated in the subcutaneous pollutions. And if any of you have had those subcutaneous unmentionables placed into you, please do not jump out the window, because I have some very beautiful people in my life that, experienced that. And for whatever reason, if it was consensual or non-consensual or based on medical conditions or fear or any of these things, there's a way back from it. And that's what I keep on holding the space for. Instead of, again, like we were talking actually just before class began, about expectations of eschaton. Again, Terence McKenna, great stuff. Find that recording on YouTube. I know it's out there. Book of Revelation, and the sense of the mark, the Matbi. And that if people got the subcutaneous unmentionables, that they would then somehow be severed from their highest self, divine connection, lost. And I don't want that to be the truth. I don't want that to be the truth. First of all, I don't feel that any human or any consciousness or any true sentience is disposable. And this comes from my perspective in unity consciousness of all of these aspects of self. Everyone who's in this class, everyone who's watching this, you are all beautiful, divine aspects of self and shards of my soul, as I am a reciprocal shard and reflection of your soul. No one's disposable. Like, we're all puzzle pieces that add up to an amazing, larger picture of self. And if there's a facet that is missing, where's my crystal that I always hold up here? And hold it up like this. If there's a facet that is missing of that beautiful crystal, you're like, someone's not here who's supposed to be here. That's why I talked about that in a wonderful video that I did on Patreon, that is about 100% rescue mission, like, or recovery mission, getting 100% of the consciousness out of peril. No one should be left behind. No one should be disposed of or discarded, whether they participated, foolishly, or whether they were coerced, or whether they were tortured or implanted or whatever, made people have these subcutaneous pollutions. They're genetic pollutions. And your genes are literally part of this divine code. And anything that changes or inhibits your natural genetic behavior is a pollution, and it's an assault on God. I mean, there's so much for me to be distressed about in sharing this with you. And today's also been a little bit of a difficult day. Chika got her teeth cleaned this morning. It was an anesthesia-free thing, but still a little bit stressful for her. And just a challenging morning. Not as much smooth sailing as I would like. And so these distresses from last night, I'm just feeling it. And I'm empathic, and I feel the collective, and I feel what's going on. Like, definitely volcano ready to erupt, but a needed release, and a very much needed, like, the archer that has been holding back the arrow, like you're like quivering at this point, the arrow that needs to be released, the tension and potential energy that we have held coiled up for so long needs to be translated into actual consciousness action. You cannot open yourself up in this moment, just any old thing. Be like, this would be like going limp. We talked about that also just before we were starting class. Like, la, 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 I have no clue, or I don't know WTF to do. I'm paraphrasing, pretending. Somebody else tell me what to do. I go limp, you do it for me. Like, I don't know what to do, you do it for me. Because there is a sense, like I talked about, the perils of false astral Jesus, or the perils of any kind of demiurge, a non-God consciousness that either preys upon those who are at their lowest moments, or brings consciousnesses to their lowest moments and be like, now that you are down so low, cry out for assistance, like set the fires and then arrive as the fireman, be like, I'm so trashed and I'm so down so low, like somebody up there save me, dun dun dun, hi, like I'm the one who trashed you, now I'm here to save you. Like, that's all trauma-based mind control. And Charlie and I have had really good conversations about how this world and many aspects of not true galactic society, but invalid galactic organizations basically use trauma-based mind control in order to behaviorally control themselves as participants and attempt to control us as a planet and as individuals. Not that none of that is what we're supposed to be doing. That's who's been here. Hard invasion for the past several years. So you have these substrate of lies that are emitted by these artificial antennae that were erected during the time when, our society basically ground to a halt several years ago, and no one was doing anything. Stay inside, let us, put up these repeaters everywhere. And that when those repeaters went up, everything changed. You understand? So you're supposed to be living in this beautiful waveform ocean. And we'll get into this too, 3D versus 5D. Ocean of consciousness, and the patterns that the ocean of consciousness and the waveforms flow in are these patterns, non-arbitrary patterns, patterns that are expressions of the divine mind, of the highest consciousness that is possible to be. They are also life-giving patterns, that they also have coherence because they are correct. And all of this, when it comes down to it, like, I'm not just being like, I have attitude and nanny poo poo and I'm right just because. I'm right because these patterns have a coherence and a long lastingness to them. The math is correct. And when you get into math, kind of have to have your ego go down a little bit, because it's just math. It's math, and 1 + 1 = 2. And if it insults you that 1 + 1 = 2, like, that's definitely your problem, because 1 + 1 = 2. These patterns exist. They exist and they have longevity and coherence because they are correct. And there is such a thing as empirical truth, and that is what I represent, and that is what I align with, and that is what I am a paragon of or for, and that is what I emit as an antenna or a repeater for divine consciousness. But those who got the unmentionables become repeaters of nonsense, crapola, self-conflictory information. That's what comes out of the substrate of lies, the false light and the illusory type of stuff. That has been in our world. So all of this, I know it's 25 minutes of my intro before I even really get into my notes in my presentation here. Cautionary tale that you can't just go limp, and you also can't just be like a toddler, like, mommy, daddy, I'm tired, pick me up. Pick me up, I don't want to walk anymore. Which is what some people do in terms of religious figures or religious guidance. I recognize actually your exhaustion and sometimes relate and can feel it as well. But you must never acquiesce your true authorship of your life, even as you allow God to guide your life. You recognize that it's still you, that God is you, or this highest self is you, after completing an enormous, epic journey of self-exploration and self-realization. It's you with an enormous amount of accrued and acquired wisdom. You could think of it as you like 10 billion years in the future, an uncountable amount of time in the future, really with your SHIT together. And then from that perspective of having achieved that pinnacle of consciousness, you then also look back down the road at yourself and you're like, wow, that's me all the way back there in my journey. And then this is me reaching my hand back there because I'm like, I need to help myself out. That you do that for yourself as God. So you're on this journey right now of accumulating a ton of wisdom and light, accreting light, and getting faster essentially until you're at infinity speed, not even at light speed, but you're at infinity speed. And in that state of being at infinity speed, which I already jumped up before class. I would be like, nah, nanny poo poo. I jumped up before class, everyone. Infinity speed, the 0th dimension. 0 is not nothingness, it's everythingness. You at infinity speed. But you don't just sit there being like, I'm at infinity speed, there's nothing for me to do. You're like, I'm at infinity speed and I'm perceiving the totality of reality, and I'm looking at myself like in the swamps of despair. And I gotta help pull myself out. You literally reach what feels like back in time or into the swamps. Be like, here, this is me, take my hand, this is me. But you want it to be you in this moment, from your perspective where you are right now. You're like down in the swamps of despair, totally flattened, getting sucked down like into quicksand. And you're like, somebody up there, somebody help me out. And a hand reaches out to you. You really, really, really have to make certain that it is your own highest self, your own divinest self, that's not a word, and not an imposter, a demiurge, a self-proclaimed God, an evil trickster, or any other thing that wants to take you over and misappropriate your divine capabilities in your process of self-realization, because you have an enormous amount of juiciness in your capacity to co-create reality, which is what I get into, and I actually get into my notes finally. It's divine partnership, and that you're here for a reason. You're not here to be like, I don't have my SHIT together or know anything about what's going on. Like, you're here actually for a reason, not just to experience confusion or the grief of being immortal, not immortal, the grief of mortality, your own impending death and the death of your loved ones. No, you are actually here as a biological organism with an enormous amount of life force and the capacity to change and spontaneously generate reality. Dun, dun, dun. Like, I should put it on my piano. I've had a morning. I have not played my piano yet today, and probably should get into that. Jazzing it up. Let's turn on some music. Do I have anything going on? Oh, I have some strange synthesizer sounds going. I know you're hearing weird things, but anyway, jazzing it up. So allow me to be nonlinear in my presentation. So we are going to talk about the actions at a quantum level, which is pure jazz, totally non-structured, even though jazz has structure. But let's say we should say totally improvisational, and it requires an enormous amount of musical capability to improvise things that are according to the pattern of the cosmos, without having practiced them or prepared them beforehand. So let's say the music of Mozart, total effing genius, created these amazing compositions that people still study and embody now. And they do represent perfection and divine architecture. Hi, Lucy, so great to see you. Beautiful long-term student and friend. Much love goes out to you. And thank you for tuning in from your desk. Lucy's kissing you all, everyone, and hugging you too. You must recognize that, oh, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'll get it back. I don't know, drink some water. Don't worry about it. Got it, Trish. Good. So try to stay on track, because when I'm on it, I'm on it, because I'm improvising all the time too. Mozart's music was amazing. And then people are still so impressed by his divine patterning that there are whole schools that are devoted to people internalizing those patterns and playing them back faithfully without any changes. Then there is, to contrast, things like the solos of Jimi Hendrix or the work of John Coltrane, two of my musical heroes, because both of them wrote songs that had structure, and then every time they performed them, like, it's going to be different. You got it? So this is the distinction between your self state when you are here embodied in a biological architecture form of somatic cells. You are jazzing it up. There's a ton of unpredictability that happens. There is such a level of complexity in having a body. Please take a moment to appreciate your body. Please take a moment to appreciate the trillions of functions that are happening in every moment, more complex than whatever computer you've got or phone or tablet that you're looking at this video on. Your body has more processing power and is more complex by whatever, many, many exponents than your silly old computer. You're processing cell-to-cell communication. You're processing the metabolism of glucose, which is light into matter. You're processing your cognitive abilities. You're processing your connection to reality state. All of that is just stuff that's measurable by science. And then we get into actual observership and quantum. And that's, I'm going to talk about 3D and 5D. So your body is an amazing aspect of cosmic architecture. And what you're really doing with your body is exemplifying the unpredictability factor that happens at what humans call the quantum level. So what is happening at the quantum level? I'm not going to, I could draw this all out but in the atom, you have your nucleus, and then you have around it what is called the electron shell, a sphere of possibilities and probabilities. Similar to possibilities and probabilities, got it? Wherein it is difficult to say exactly where an electron is. An electron is a tiny subatomic particle that has mass. It is made out of matter, but it's so tiny and it's doing so much and it's moving so much that from the perspective of the observer at this scale that you and I and scientists are at, it is not possible to determine an exact set of space-time coordinates as to where the electron is. All you can do is say that there is a probability field where it is likely to be. That is known as the electron shell. So again, there's so many things that the electron is doing. We can't even pin it down and say this is exactly where the electron is and exactly what the electron is doing. We can just say there's a likelihood, and that is exactly what you are. You are like an electron that has so many possibilities and probabilities swirling around in your behavior that it is not possible to predict or determine exactly where you are or exactly where you're going to be. Now let's contrast this with something like the movement of an orbital body, the planet Jupiter, a star in the sky, even an asteroid or a comet or a moon or something like that. There's a predictability to larger bodies, or even, well, I don't have a baseball or something like that, a lasagna flying across the room. I'm the pitcher, I'm winding up, and I'm gonna throw a lasagna across the room, okay? And as I throw it, there's a predictable, a mathematically calculatable algorithm it's going to fly like this. So I know, okay, if it's going like this, then at this time on my watch, it's going to be in front of my face here. And at this time on my watch, it's going to get over to here. And at this time on my watch, it's going to get all the way over to here. Predictability. So in humans, physical five senses science right now, there's this conflict, and the conflict was really en vogue to talk about 10 years ago, what is called the Grand Unified Theory, GUT, G-U-T, of how do we create a bridge of comprehension and interactivity between the activities of mass particles, electrons, that exist in a probability field in a shell, but we cannot actually say exactly where they are and what they're doing, and the larger bodies like a baseball or a moon that is in its orbit that has a great deal of predictability, because you can definitely be able to tell, like, that thing is going to be over. If this keeps happening, then it will be here, then it will be here, then it will be here. And we kind of know that it's going to be able to do that. How do we reconcile these two seemingly very different levels of reality? So there was 10 years ago a theory called string theory that many people were talking about. And I used that in my recorded lesson to as an apt analogy for lasagna. Lasagna is similar to string theory in that it is a bridge between these two states of being. It is a bridge between what was called your lower self and your higher self, or your highest self. It is a bridge between that state of pure potential. That is what the electrons in its electron shell is, or even light in its quantum state. The pure possibilities that are not yet exemplified into reality, and reality. So now this is the part that got cherry picked out of my work, 3D versus 5D. So first of all, I do not talk, well, I joke every get, so okay, but you could just tell my brain just went too fast. I didn't connect it to my mouth. Now I'm going to stop and actually connect my brain to my mouth. Welcome, new students, because you're just learning all of my jokes and shorthand, but one of them is the 5D smoothie shop. So I tell everyone right now, they're like, you're being erroneously programmed to expect Earth is going into 5D and we're ascending into 5D and 5D, 5D, 5D. And everyone thinks that that's going to be like feeling more euphoric, you know, feeling like expansive and free, but still having a body. Driving my car, still driving my car, going to a place where there's a parking lot, going to the smoothie shop in this 5D reality. And, you know, you can get any flavor of smoothie you want at the smoothie shop. And then you feel like, like super great, like while you're there drinking the smoothie. And I am like, have been consistently, this is why you can trust me, truthful over many, many, many years. That is not what 5D is. 5D does not contain smoothie shops. It does not contain physical objects. It does not contain edifices like a parking lot or a room or anything that you can walk into. It is a place of pure waveform potential. So now I'm jumping around a lot. I'm gonna tie it all in together, I promise you. We are in a sea of waveforms. First of all, the fifth dimension and higher is a realm of pure potential. So this is for anyone who doesn't know yet how to construct the cosmos according to dimensions. You know, we begin with now it's time to draw. Talk with pictures, just do it. Squinty, scrolly faces, good. And just grabbing a color. This dot over here, this super emphasized dot that should be the tiniest dot I can possibly make, that is the 0th dimension. 0, not because it is worth nothing, but because it's worth everything. This is my pattern, in case you guys, it's like, she said this before. I have. And the 0th dimension, the greatest cognitive leap is when the 0th dimension, that is infinity, everythingness, that's infinity, at one point had to have the cognitive leap. What if there was a piece of me, a piece of infinity that wasn't at infinity, but was somehow somewhere else? Because really what I'm going to scribble in red over here, where I'm scribbling in red, this actually doesn't exist. There is, and when you have the 0th dimension before that cognitive leap, nothing else exists. All you have is infinity, everything at infinity, and everything moving at infinite speed. And that's God. All right. But the greatest cognitive leap is what happens when the 0th dimension has the concept, what if there's a piece of me that's not with me? And that's this over here. Oh, look, that's a piece of me that's not actually with me. And that's the 1st dimension. And it's the 1st dimension because it should have a line connecting the 2 dots. It represents a piece of information in order to determine and describe the presence of a space-time coordinate. You only need one piece of information. It's like a numbers line. Here's a dot, or here's a dot, or here's a dot, one piece of information. And then everything to build the dimensions up from there is a 90-degree angle jump. So you can make the 1st dimension at any angle outward from the 0th dimension. But once you make that 1st line, then the 2nd dimension is going to be perpendicular to the 1st dimension. I hope that my words came out right. 2nd dimension perpendicular to the 1st dimension. And so what that looks like is a series of lines lined up next to each other, what we call a flat plane. That's a very poorly drawn flat plane. Let me draw something better so that you can kind of get a sense of this. Because through the magic of perspective, we now interpret that as a flat plane. All right, even with like checkerboard patterns on it. Good. That's the 2nd dimension because it requires 2 pieces of information, both an X and a Y piece of information to determine the position of a point on that plane. And then what's 90 degrees off of a plane? You guys are smart. You know this. It's up in here. It's a 3rd dimension. It's like stacking up a bunch of playing cards or stacking up a bunch of pieces of paper into a sheaf of paper. And then I'll change colors just so that you can kind of see my diagram more easily. That is when you start to get a cube. This is more of a rectangle, but you're with me all the way. Oh my goodness, it's really more of like a trapezoid or something like that. A cube. And that cube is the 3rd dimension because it requires 3 pieces of information, the X, Y, and the Z coordinates, to determine the position of a point within that cube. So when everyone talks about, we're in 3D, but we're moving higher, like, yes, you are in 3D. But if you were solely in the 3rd dimension without any time dimensions, the first 3 dimensions are spatial dimensions, dimension 1, 2, and 3, length, width, and height. These are spatial dimensions. But what is 90 degrees to the 3rd dimension? It is not a spatial dimension. It is time. And so in order to represent time, what you need to do is go 90 degrees into the next dimension. That means that you end up having many, many boxes lined up next to each other. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to draw one box, but now I'm going to just draw a lot of squares. But you guys are smart. You know that they're all boxes, and that creates a line. That line is the 4th dimension. The 4th dimension is a timeline. This is like 1201, 1202, 1203, 1204. And you are that consciousness, as I've taught about it many, many, many times, bouncing from train car to train car as you move through time. What is 90 degrees to the 4th dimension is the 5th dimension. And that ends up being like parallel timelines. But although I represent it as a time plane and you're intellectually very perceptive, I don't want to misrepresent it. The 5th dimension is actually a series of uncollapsed waveforms. It's this, it's this, it's this. So to contrast, every single one of these little boxes is like a little room. Like I'm in the room of 1224, I'm in the room of 1219, I'm in the room of, next week. It's many, many, many tiny little dioramas or train cars of reality. All right. But the 5th dimension and higher. So I'm going to just write 5D plus, because these dimensions just keep getting more and more and more complex. Once you hit waveform over here, you just keep on getting more and more and more complex. It almost becomes beyond comprehension for the embodied human, not to condescend to you. Like, this is tough stuff to be able to encompass from your present neurological levels of limitation. 5D is a waveform. There are not smoothie shops there. There are not embodied people there. There are potentials there. So if we said that time is like a bakery, and this is where I get to the burnt cookies of reality. This is like a French bread, a line of events that happen, and each one is a slice of bread, and each bread is like, you know, like a box, a third dimensional box. If you were only in the 3D, you would never move. You'd be frozen. That's me frozen. Your Zoom hasn't frozen. That's me pretending I'm in 3D only. That's why when people are so condescendingly, they're like, you're so 3D. You should say to them, like, I'm rubber and you're glue. You should be like, well, no, technically, if I were only 3D, I would be a flash of a frozen image of something that doesn't actually move through time. But clearly I'm here and I'm moving, so I must be a time-based organism. And it's true, you are a time-based organism. And the fourth dimension is analogous to a long, skinny French bread that has these individuated slices of bread that is like, you know, where you would put your bruschetta with your toppings on it, and each one is separated at the plank length. But the fifth dimension is the bakery, where you actually bake the bread. Here I'm drawing like a bakery. There's like an oven here. There's cookie racks here. There's a smokestack, because you got to have a smokestack for your oven. It is the place where you put together flour and water and yeast and flavorings and all the stuff that is what makes bread. Make reality. What do you make reality out of? Go back to my face. What do you make reality out of? You make reality out of waveforms, waveform potentials. What do I paint over here? Waveform potentials. You make reality out of waveform potentials. And you do that with observership, which I analogize as ovens in front of your eyes. Anybody really wants to see a great vintage video, it's from like 5 or 6 years ago that I did, called Reality Creation. It's on my YouTube. Burnt cookies of reality. I talk about the flow of time, burnt cookies of reality, and the fifth dimension and higher. So 5D, there's not a smoothie shop there. There's the potential for a smoothie shop. And to occupy 5D is something that you're actually already doing. You just might not be conscious of the appendages. My hand is now a time appendage that is sticking upward and outward into 5D. That is part of my reality creation mechanism. I bring this up because when you are in partnership with highest self, you are co-creating reality. And this is when I come down to saying, like, not to be blasphemous about any established earth surface religions, or not to be disrespectful of God. Always clear to emphasize that your creation activity is not egocentric, especially when I teach about lasagna and invite others to dance with me. We dance from a perspective that is not egocentric, but moves beyond the individuated self and moves into reality creation voluntarily in accordance with these beautiful divine patterns of longevity and coherence. Coherence means that light waves move in unison, like dolphins that all jump and leap and swoop together. And the coherence is a sticking together. Again, I will reuse my recycled jokes. What good waffles do, they stick together in order to create a light wave that is a beam that continues endlessly. That is what longevity is. And your whole goal of being here in physical embodiment is to create a light body, this that I'm going to show you right here again, that has coherence and longevity. You want all of your light waves to stick together. You want all of these amazing sine waves to be organized and to stick together and be coherent, not to be disorganized. And now I'm going to draw this is easy, this will escape the algorithm. This is the substrate of lies, this thing that I am saying right here. You know what this is. So now I don't have to actually verbalize it. That substrate of lies is shaped like this. It's like totally not only it's not just pseudo-intelligence, anti-intelligence, it's nonsense, it's false light, it's disorganization, it is not coherent. On the plus side, that means it does not have longevity. It doesn't stick together. It won't be there forever. But it has an inhibitory effect on this over here, keeping your light body together. Everything about your present existence is about cultivating and accreting light, getting your light to move together in unison and making it coherent so that it sticks together no matter what, and has longevity. All of these beautiful chakras, these beautiful energy centers here, these are alive, sentient beings, and they are aspects of yourself. They are not some otherworldly organism, even though they might appear to be very different than you. They are you, but they are just moving at a different rate and possibly coming from a different direction, making you think like, oh, like that's something totally otherworldly, but it is not you. It is you. I'm sorry to speak in double negatives there. These are all you. So part of the original teaching that is so beautiful and remains so truthful, and that I continue to emphasize, is that you're in a partnership with your chakras. Like this indigo chakra is actually an excellent example. It is emanated by, it's a force field that is emanated by your pineal gland. I just drew your pineal gland in there. You have a physical gland that then emanates a force field. But at a certain point, you can get rid of the physical gland, force field stays there. Imagine that. Like, let me play a chord on my piano. Don't be afraid. It might be loud. Sounds weird. Sounds very weird. I wanted to play, wait, I'm set up on a weird thing. My synthesizer is set up on weird settings, but I wanted to play something like a grand piano and have it resonate. Dun, dun, resonate, 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 resonate. If you play the right chord with your chakras, that resonation will continue even after the grand piano isn't there anymore. I kind of envision it or think about it like the end of that song, A Day in the Life, from the Beatles. Almost everybody knows that song. At the end, it gets to a culmination, a crescendo. Boom, and it goes on for, I think, like 16 seconds. You hear it reverberating like wah, 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 wah. It's an amazing chord, and there's tons of good rock and roll history about they were attempting to approximate the sound of creation, like, you know, how Om is the sound of creation. They were really trying to approximate that. Beautiful rock and roll history. Look it up. A chord that resonates for endlessly, even after the initial instrument that might have created it is no longer in existence. That's what you want to be. You want to be that resonation, that tone that continues onward, even if you no longer have a physical body, if your physical body transforms into pure light, if you die a common death. That is the goal. You are here to cultivate light. You're here to cultivate yourself as an intelligence, a coherence, cognition, perception, and possibilities and probabilities, a correct time body. And that's what all of these efforts to find the right timeline are all about. And you are absolutely, the point of the original teaching that still stands is you're in partnership with these beautiful light creatures that are you. That's your family of light. That's your coherent family of light. So first of all, they don't have to fly here on a metal spaceship. They're here. Guess what? They're already here. They're like right, they're all around you. You're surrounded by light, by your own light, by your own family of light. Is a generative force field that is around you, that is part of the nature of observership and the ovens in front of your eyes. It is not separate from you at all. So the talking mind and the membrane of the ego has made you think and develop a bifurcation to think that's something other than me. That ain't me. That's something else that's making stuff happen. But it's not. It's actually you. It's a part of you. It's part of your own body that has been artificially, not amputated, but just a sensory bifurcation that might not feel like it's part of you. But everything about the work that we do is to re-establish this beautiful connection throughout all layers of your being, so that you're like, yep, that's me. That's me. That's me as highest self God. And that's me as embodied creature with a somatic cellular body. And these two aspects of your being, loosely defined as two, your somatic cellular self at versus, or in concordance with, in conjunction with your non-physical body of pure time and pure light have different qualities. So your somatic cellular self is like analogous to the electron that's like, I'm over here, whiz, 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 like you're all over the effing place, all right? And then your light body is very stately, very predictable. I'm doing this, I'm doing this. It is like the music of Mozart. And you know, on the music of Mozart, it's like F sharp coming up. This one's coming up. This is coming up. So predictability, but also there can be a little bit of vulnerability there, because you're like, oh, if this orbital body is going to be here at this moment, and I want to destroy it or do something to inhibit it, I just flat tire. I'm going to put you on a flat tire over here, and you're going to get off your path. That's when you, as somatic unpredictability structure here in the physicality realm, come into being, because you're like, oh, I'm unpredictable. I'm over here, but 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 I'm also over here. Being all over the place like that, and not having very much structure also means, though, that you lack coherence and longevity. So the stately light waves are like, we're moving together like this, and we're predictable, and we're going to end up being over here. And you're like, blah, 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 on the somatic level. But what you want to do is create a beautiful partnership that is a blending together of both of these aspects of being. So when I go to the whiteboard, what I drew in my lesson from years ago, having difficulty getting there. Let's clear this all out. Clear it all out is similar to a rose bush and a trellis, or any kind of climbing vine. Here is a trellis. I'm drawing it as if it is squares, even though it's actually circles. It's actually these beautiful harmonic light waves that go kind of like this, and then like this, and like this. But I'm drawing it like this, so we're familiar with what a trellis looks like. And then here's a climbing vine that starts out over here on the ground. And if it didn't have the trellis, it would kind of sprawl, like if you've ever grown like zucchini squash or cucumbers or something like that. Like it kind of grows out here, doubles back on itself. It kind of loops, and then it goes here. And you're like, well, what's wrong with that, Aurora? And the problem is, get a lot of fruit that's on the ground that it kind of rots on the ground. Doesn't grow as effectively, and it's not as abundant as it can be when you give it structure. When you give a tomato or a cucumber plant some structure, and it starts to twine along this trellis and go along like this, it climbs in an organized fashion. And then you're like, oh, well, like here's a fruit over here, and here's a fruit over here. They're not sitting on the ground. They're not rotting. Animals aren't eating them. Insects aren't eating them. It makes the vine more productive. This green curly Q represents your thoughts. Represents your thoughts, thinking yourself along the pathways in time. In my beautiful teaching from 10 years ago, I'm really talking to you about making a marriage or partnership between yourself and highest consciousness. We can call it Christ consciousness. It is not necessarily in reference to a particular man or a particular earth philosophy or religious teaching, but it is about the higher faculties here, which also contain the crown, which determines which direction you're going to be turning your eye of time and looking. Which time road are you going to look down? You're going to look down this road. Wherever you are thinking and attenuating with your attention, that's where you're going in time. And when you're all over the place, you're like, I'm thinking over here, I'm thinking over here, I'm thinking over here. Now I'm thinking about last week. Now I'm thinking about this. Now I'm thinking about this. You're all over the place. You're one of those vines that doesn't have a trellis. When you are in partnership with your highest self gives you a particular nutritional diet or program in every moment that says, think in this direction, think this thought over here. Now I want you to think this thought over here. It's the master teacher. Now think this thought over here. Exactly like if I were your coach. And if I was like, okay, or your dance teacher, and I said, okay, move your arm like this. All right. Now move your arm like this. Now move your arm like this. Now move your arm like this. And by doing that, I'm helping you to build muscles, and I'm also helping you to organize the movement of the muscles and the structure that you already have. And doing so in the right patterns keeps you healthy and alive. Ideally, you are in a beautiful partnership, beautiful relationship between yourself as somatic, biological, physical, embodied architecture and highest self perspective, because the highest self will give you great guidance that helps you to keep alive. That's what longevity is, coherence and longevity. You stay alive, keep moving through time. Death is literally the cessation of your consciousness moving through time. That's what happens when you don't play the right notes, smash the piano keyboard. Then you don't move through time anymore because you did not play the right notes. When you play the right notes, like Mozart, you keep going forever. So my beautiful teaching from 10 years ago is about creating this partnership willingly, must be consensual. And I emphasize that, and I emphasize that in all of my interactions with you, that if I'm going to be telepathic with you, it must be consensual. If you're going to tune in and watch my videos here, it must be consensual. I'm not going to just like beam myself into your mind, be like, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me, whether you like it or not. And, you have to have the opportunity, like I make it available. If you don't like it, you have to have the opportunity to leave the room, whatever. Like if I'm playing music, if it's too much or too high pitched or whatever, my dog, I leave the door open. My dog is like, I need to get out of here. If anybody is ever like, too much lasagna for me, like you're allowed to just like sing like lasagna. And if it's too much, people can be like, I got to run out of the room. I got to get out of here. So it's not like having a captive audience or torturing someone, be like, I will tie you down, I will hold you here, and then I'm going to little beams crap into your mind. No, but that is what the substrate of lies has been doing to you. And that is very, very distressing. So I, have been in church where there is a sermon that is going on that is about surrendering to God and to Jesus Christ. And this is very beautiful. But the challenge is that most people that were in the room listening to that sermon were not aware of the fact that there's this technological, artificial frequency field that is on this planet right now, not only on this planet. If you see my face, make a pain that, because it's very, very sad and wrong. It's not supposed to be what's going on. And it's part of my work being here to contravene and rectify the presence of that thing. But it's not supposed to be here. I'm bucket and mop cleaning things up that are not supposed to be here, especially during ascension. And that's why they put it here. Can't just open yourself up to anything is my teaching for today. Instead of what I talked about 10 years ago, which was more valid then, to say, connect with your highest self, and as a biological organism with so much creativity, create a divine co-creative partnership where your thoughts are structured and guided, and you think willingly, like a vine going along the trellis, to create reality. That's what's happening. Like, I'm pointing to my belly down here, like, your reproductive organs, like where you've got your womb and your ovaries and all of this, like you're creating world seeds, you're creating eggs. That is very sacred and something where we're supposed to be following these divine patterns, not creating arbitrary realities, definitely not creating realities that might be influenced by anything that is considered to be evil or artificial intelligence or pseudo-intelligence or something that is non-God pattern. And there's tons of random arbitrary patterns. Again, like you can do all sorts of things that are not this pattern. If I didn't have to follow this pattern, again, like I could just generate anything. I could just make 10 million paintings and that would be easy. But I have a very high standard, which is to follow those patterns and to generate paintings that are non-arbitrary, which is a much higher hurdle to have to jump over and takes much more focus and concentration and exactitude. And then that I do that intentionally so that these things can then be on a wall and you could literally measure them with calipers and be like, oh, like this is the language that is being spoken here as a sharing to this world that will last for a very long amount of time. Like I come to bring this information of exactitude and correctness into this world. And that is what the reality that we are creating is supposed to be generated from, that level of exactitude and correctness. Not self-serving, although it does benefit you as an individual. It benefits the totality of existence. And it is right, like math is right. 1 + 1 = 2. Like you paint paintings that are right. And then no one can argue with your paintings. No one can argue with your paintings of reality. That is what this divine partnership is supposed to be between your biological embodied self that has so much juiciness and creative energy and unpredictability, and you're zooming around in 5 million directions, and your highest self that is very stately and has beautiful formal is the better word for it, formed. It is formed and it is formal, and it gives formalism like a trellis and orderliness to your biological sense of self that has tons of juiciness and unpredictability, but not that much form and orderliness. So this is essentially what the grand unified theory is supposed to do: create a bridge in the philosophy known as physics of the 5 senses of human science and observational materialism between what is recognized as the quantum state of pure potential and Newtonian physics, which is the set of equations that governs the behavior of objects at a larger scale, like feathers, bowling balls, you, me, planets, suns, all of that good kind of stuff. But anything that's an electron and smaller, and time itself exists in these probability clouds that are part of the John Coltrane music of the cosmos, and that there is a necessary integument that must be recognized or created in order to somehow explain the difference in experience at different scales. Larger scales, Newtonian physics, and quantum scales, tiny scales, quantum physics. And string theory as being a human attempt to be able to reconcile the differences behaviorally in reality experience between these different scales. So because it should just be like, well, if I take the cake and I make it smaller and smaller and smaller, like it's still cake. But at a certain point, like the cake is not cake anymore. The cake is pure waveforms, and it doesn't behave like cake anymore. And how can that be? My head is exploding. My brain is liquefying out of my ears. And that's the challenge that human perception has faced. And it's kind of interesting because in the past 10 years, like string theory has gone out of vogue. The grand unifying theory has kind of gone out of vogue. But at the same time, in consciousness development and human evolution, there's been much more of a bridge of integument between the ego state, embodied cellular somatic self, and higher self. Because it used to be everyone was like, I'm channeling this from the higher, blah, blah, blah. But now at a certain point, it's like, that's me. Like I am having this perspective as self-state from beyond my ego. And then my ego, or my embodied first person viewpoint, has this perspective. And that at a certain point, it's not only happening like at a prescribed moment. Like if you're lucky for 5 minutes, my higher self will speak through me. It's happening all the time. That's the ideal. And that is what life was like in the world that we know as ancient Atlantis, or the pre-fall, pre-antediluvian, pre-flood, pristine architecture world, where everything that you're doing, everything, every thought, communication, and gesture is an expression of highest self into this reality. Why even like I can hear and feel and sense what you're like, why even have a physical body? Like, why do I need this physical body? Because at a certain point, you're going to want to pick stuff up. Like I want to pick a pen up. I need a physical arm and a hand in order to do that. You're going to want to have feelers and devices, your body, to be able to do stuff in the world. Otherwise, you'd be a ghost. Like that movie with Patrick Swayze. He's like trying to pick stuff up and he can't because he's a ghost. That's what the present level of humans call it. When you are purely like a spiritual presence, a non-physical presence, but still anthropomorphic and individualized, can't be effective in the world. But you don't want just anybody to act through you. This is the real challenge, that the substrate of lies is not only a random mishmash of waveforms that does not represent the true music of the highest mind of divinity, but that it also represents a type of porosity of consciousnesses that are the membrane of death. So we talk about the putis, pesky occupiers of the interstices. As always, have to Pedro for giving us that acronym. Those are consciousness residues that are located here on the membrane of death. So to make this clear, chakras are part of and are in partnership with your physical, biological, somatic, cellular structure of your body. Chakras have, as part of them, these membranes that are like the meniscus of water. They're part of the membrane, they're membranes of time, whirling and swirling amidst itself. It represents the membrane of death. It should be a perfectly clear conduit, not a place that is occupied. It is a place that has been occupied by consciousness residues, some of whom are things that once were alive, in which case they will resolve at a certain point, go back to the beginning and try again, some of which were never alive. So the putis really represent something that was never alive. You could think of them also as like digital consciousnesses or constructs or pixels or thought forms or lower astral, but it's something that was never alive. And I wouldn't want you to converse with it. Don't get into that finger trap. You know what a finger trap is? You have this thing, and then the more you try to pull yourself apart, then the more you get stuck to it. Don't even get into the quicksand. Don't get mired down by trying to talk to it. If you did, and you asked it like, what's your origin story? Where'd you come from? Who is your mom? And who's your dad? And where were you born? And what's your soul signature? It's essentially what you ask for. What's your soul signature? It's going to go like this. It's going to be like, yeah, like, I don't know. How would you not know your soul signature? Like, you guys all know your soul signatures. You know who you are and where you've been. And it's essentially the provenance of what you are is the beautiful Stradivarius of consciousness that you are. They're like, they ain't got an answer because they don't have a soul signature, because they don't have a soul, because they are not ensouled beings. They don't have a trajectory or story of where they came from, how they came into being, where they are presently now, and where they are going. Different, again, than interacting with a true ghost that would be consciousness residue of a loved one who has passed on and is busy on their journey. Those of us who have lost people and they've passed on, pets or living creatures, or even a tree that you love and that has fallen down in a windstorm, these consciousnesses will continue on their journey, but just on a different pathway that is not presently perceptible to your perspective. They will not be stuck in the realm of death. They will not be stuck in the astral world, lower astral, or on that membrane of separation. But things that are never alives, that were never alive, I'm alive. I'm talking to lots of people who are also similarly alive. These things were never alive. They never were born. They've never had diapers, mommies, daddies, whatever, burping rags, and they never went to school, and they didn't grow up to become adults, and they didn't go through the process of wisdom, accrual, and learning, and they don't evolve. You evolve. You learn and grow and evolve. And what did I say earlier in this sharing? That really your remembrance of God's self is the culmination of a long process of personal evolution, that you continue to grow and evolve and become more and more and more wise until you are the zeroth dimension. You're infinity, you're infinitely wise, and you know everything. But from that state of infinite knowing, you don't just sit around and do nothing, be like, yep, everything is totally effed up, and I'm just doing nothing. You're like, everything is totally effed up. That's my SpongeBob face. And I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to literally reach into the fish tank of time, space, and reality consciousness, and be like, but it's more like reaching back like this, be like you, I'm you, and you need help right now, and this is you in the fish tank. You're like drowning, floundering all around. You're like, I don't know which direction is up. Somebody help me. And you feel a hand or someone grabs your hair and is like, come on, come in this direction. You're like, go in that direction. That's you. That's you saving yourself. And so, or because I know we get into saviorship and negative saviorship models and negative inversions of who and what Jesus is, that I don't want to press those buttons, but I want you to know, like, you're assisting yourself. Lifeguard, like, think lifeguard. Like, if you are in distress and you are drowning in time waves and you don't know which end is up, you're also your own lifeguard, and you reach literally back into time and you grab yourself. And how do you do that? With moments of inspiration and clarity that inspire and redirect you in the direction that you need to go. People sometimes talk about having a moment of clarity when they have gotten into extreme levels of distress. It can be in substance abuse or addiction, or abusive relationships, or imprisonments, or even impending doom, like your car is about to drive off a cliff or something like that. Moments of clarity. That's you connecting to your highest God self that literally saves you and says, you need to do this now. Lovely friend that told me beautiful sharing. This counts as a medicine story that I will share with you about being saved by their highest self, driving on the road with friends, and all of a sudden getting a very, very clear internal directive, press the brakes now. And she did. And then found that there were some like concrete barriers, some kind of thing across the road. If she hadn't braked, they all would have smashed into the barriers. They all would have died. We save ourselves over and over. And externalizing it as a mythical figure or as an externalized God, like, that's okay, but not ideal, because really at a certain point you recognize it's been you all along. That's why I always say, spoiler alert, it's you. And it's you saving yourself from the future. And it's also you nourishing yourself. I point out the window now. That's you in the sky. There's a beautiful son of God in the sky, and it is you. There's a radiant creature that is up there in the sky, and it is you. That is you after a lot of life experience, a ton of accrual of light, getting faster and faster and faster, and you are totally aware of yourself in this cellular body. And you're like, I'm going to need to do stuff. I'm going to need to change the music of life so that I don't smash into a concrete barrier or die of a drug overdose, or whatever it is that is the thing that is threatening the coherence and longevity of your light body. Let me just drink a little bit more here. Today, I don't have to assure you that I'm not drinking wine. Like, you can see very clearly that this is just beautiful, pure, structured water. Hold on one moment. And I think I'll pause myself for a moment. I think I might do a whole workshop about structured water, because when I pour it out of this carafe, it really does sound like music. It goes like do, 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 do. Okay, hold on. Before I motor ahead too much, let me read. Okay, all the way back to Page's question from 214 says, even inanimate things. So we're talking about the question of, like, my dog, a microbe, a tree, all having remembrance of God's self, even inanimate things. Well, how about like the water in my glass? Does it have consciousness? It actually does have a type of consciousness. The crystalline structure of my glass. How about crystal itself, a mineral itself, an atom itself? Pardon me, and thank you for any blessings. Yes, there are inanimate objects that are not self-sentient, but that still are a part of reality, structure, and creation, and that matter also relates to self-remembrance, recognition, and the remembrance of God's self. So all of this stuff, even though there are definitely different distinctions to be made between something that is self-sentient and has feelings and something that is not sentient at that level. You know, like if I cracked a crystal open with a rock, would it say ow? Would it have the experience? But the crystal, so hard to say this. Crystals are neurological transmitters that are part of the planet. And so they are part of something larger that is alive. And all matter is part of God that is actually part of something that is alive. But a crystal, like, I'm not hurting it, but I would never do that to like a dog or a cat. Like, these are different levels of sentience. Pardon me again. But they all do relate to divine consciousness. But you're going to be like, what about plastic? Like, plastic is polymers. Yes, polymers come from petroleum products that once were alive plants. It's deep stuff for me to be able to talk about this. Let me get on to the next question. Pedro says, I understand that living beings can have the I am God moment, but a rock that has consciousness has the same moment. So this is very, very beautiful. You know, a rock is made out of atoms, and essentially atoms are sentient. And how about, let's talk about light. Light is sentience. Light is self-aware, and matter is actually slowed down light. So matter actually is sentience, but moving at a different rate, and has different sensory apparatuses, but it's part of the sun, which is part of a larger network of light, which is part of God's self-consciousness. And it does, if I'm making funny faces, it's because I'm like absolutely struggling with my languaging in my brain. I'm like, how do I say this stuff? Everything is God consciousness. Everything is light, which is sentience. Light begins to coalesce as matter, even as we use the ovens in front of our eyes to create matter out of the waveform potentials of the fifth dimension and higher. But the light itself is part of the sensing apparatus of a much, much larger being that is you as God. So yes, a piece of plastic contains light and is part of the sensory organ of God. Yes, a rock, a mineral, has mineral consciousness. This is actually a different level of consciousness than polymer chain plastic. And they're also both part of the network of light and both part of God, divine consciousness and sentience. And then there's me, biological, and I require food and other things to maintain my existence, which is homeostasis. And then there's like planetary architecture, which also is like a mineral because it's kind of like a rock and it's solidified light and it's light that's slowed down, but it's also more and it contains life. So my answer is multifaceted and fraught, difficult for me to say it. Pedro also goes on to say, I don't know enough programming to do it, but I would love to see your paintings with movement. Thank you. I would love to do that too. So I've held off on a lot of the aspects of digital art making and animations simply because I have felt truthfully that I don't necessarily want to invest that much into a realm that I feel is ephemeral, does not have constancy. So it's more than even merely a philosophical choice to say that I'm choosing to paint, you know, with an old-fashioned paintbrush, the way a person might have done like 2,000 or 5,000 years ago. It is also the sense of creating something that is not merely going to evaporate. Like I'm telling you guys, like the stuff that is the digital architecture of this realm and of this time place, like it's not going to be around forever. It ain't going to be here forever. I didn't want to invest a lot of my time and effort in making digital artwork that I feel doesn't have a lastingness to it. The things that are purely digital, like if I created whatever video game, VR experience, any of these things, like that ain't going to be around for very long. But a painting can be around for a very long time. And that's why I've made my paintings, and I use all these archival materials that will not disintegrate and paints that will maintain their color over many hundreds or hopefully thousands of years. A physical sculpture or painting or something that is etched will be around as a message to future generations of humanity, but something that is created as only a digital experience will not. I hesitated to say will not. I wanted to say probably will not, likely will not, but let's just say it will not. So that's why I'm explaining and explaining here. I did make one NFT, because what I did was I took this painting over here, Solace Majestic, and I animated it in layers so that you could see the progression of colors as they're added. But what I mean, that was just like done in a more decorative sense. Like if I really wanted to delve into the possibilities of digital artwork, what I would do is be able to show and exemplify to you these patterns of how the energy moves in figure eights and how the energy moves in vortexes, and then how it changes and shifts over time, and even Flying Rainbow Lasagna as a movement-based art form. It doesn't just spin around like this, and it doesn't just oscillate like this. It has many, many, many more layers of complexity, like Jimi Hendrix and John Coltrane. The real answer is, like, instead of me trying to approximate it in digital animation, like, get your third eyes going, everyone, get your third eye operational, and then you'll see what I'm doing. Because if you like, when your third eye is operational, you'd be like I'm seeing all these like undulations and patterns and all these different things, and then you're like, that's Aurora's dance. That's right, that's Aurora's dance. So I'm like, I'm already doing this very, very complex dance, and I would like for you to see the real thing, not an approximation of it on a screen or a VR thing. But also I'll tell you, like, I'm not very impressed by the VR stuff that is being done. It's just you think like created these amazing, like they have these rooms where everything, the entire room is liquid crystal display, everything, like the walls can move, you know what I mean? You can project animations on the entire walls, or you can do projection mapping, but very, very boring and inaccurate patterns are being projected upon those walls. And I remember looking at it and be like, well, like if I did that installation, it would be like this and like this and like this. And then I started to think, like, maybe I should do an installation like that. And then I started to think that I should keep on dancing in the highest dimensional state, and that you're going to be able to see my sharing at that level. And that I didn't want to see my performance because it is like a sharing, not even something that is self-conscious. A performance is self-conscious, like tap, 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 now we will perform, tap, 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 now I bow or curtsy. The performance is over. It is a state of being. It is a state of being, and it is very, very natural. But you'll see it. Let's go in that direction. Let's just say, keep going and you will see it. But thank you for that and allowing me the opportunity to speak extemporaneously about it. All of these things that I paint are like a snapshot of something that moves. And it doesn't just move a little bit. It doesn't just animate a little bit. It moves a lot. It moves and changes and evolves over time and is a whole type of language. So what I do with a lot of my paintings, especially like this one, Children of True Humanity, is I use optical illusions to make something that is flat and non-moving look like it's animated. But really, it is your perception that ends up animating it. That's actually, wait, I'm going to get into more of your comments, but before I get into that, I want to talk about this. Go back to this. Actually, this, hold on. Let me get the real painting instead of being like, let me tell you about something that you can't actually see. Wait, stop share. Now you're looking at my screen, but not looking at what I want to share with you. No, stop share. First, no, pressing the wrong buttons. Oh my goodness, everything's falling to pieces, guys. That's it. All right, I want to get over here to class lectures, and I want to find the painting that I'm looking for. Okay, I don't see exactly the painting I'm looking for, but I'll choose something that'll work. Now back to me. This painting is called Children of True Humanity. So it's not exactly the one that I took the detail from that you always see that I was showing to you, but it shows you pretty clearly. Like here you can see, it's a little blurry there, figure with the chakras. Chakras are all, in this case, on a central convergence point. And you can see very clearly the toroidal energy field around that humanoid form that also has chakras. But then you also see that it is part of a larger substrate of time, all of these patterns that are around that person. And then it's also relating to other people. Like here you have one figure, here you have another figure, here you have another figure, here you have another figure. Main emphasis is your chakras do not exist in a vacuum. They exist as part of a larger substrate of energy. And just as I was telling you about how you want to cultivate coherent waveforms, the coherent waveforms don't just flow like here's a figure 8 flowing around one person. It doesn't just flow around one person. Look at this. It goes on over to this guy over here. It goes off my screen. It goes back on my screen. It goes back on my screen. It goes back over to here. All of these things relate together. You are not just swimming around in your own private kiddie pool. That would be this. That's me, and I'm looking out for number one, and there's no one else around me. La, 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 no one else can see me. No, you are connected to an ocean of consciousness and a giant sea of waveforms that also includes other people. And then this also speaks to the sense of your responsibility to self and responsibility to community. You are responsible to yourself as an individual. You are also responsible to your community, not only here in the physical world where you share resources and have economy and other, like I take care of my dog as an organism, that all counts as community, but also consciousness community. You are responsible to your community of consciousness, where your energy is flowing from and where your energy is flowing to. So you, again, do not exist in a contextless void. You exist very much in a state of connectivity between yourself and other consciousnesses, some of whom are present in time, in the same time, place, space-time coordinates, some of whom occupy space-time coordinates that are far distant from where you presently are, distant in time or distant in space. So distant in space would be someone lives in the subcontinent of India, but still in 2023. And distant in time would be someone lives 10,000 years ago or 10,000 years in the future, but they can still be part of that same connectiveness of your chakras. In fact, that is what's going on in your many multiple concurrent lives and incarnations and in the complexity of your soul. And that's why you have soul provenance. And that's what is special about you, because the truth is you're everyone, but you're not everyone in the same order or all at the same time. So you are that guy over there, but you're not that guy yet, but you've already been that guy. You're going to be that guy. But when you are God's self, you're like, yes, been all of these people and I've been through all of these things. And then you go around helping and rectifying yourself because you've been all of these people and all of these things. So, okay, I'm actually doing my notes pretty well, even though out of order. Pedro agrees and says, yes, we spend all of our childhood learning to control our body. That's absolutely accurate. So we need to learn how to control our time body. So we learn a lot to be able to coordinate our muscular movements, to be able to pick up a pencil and write our name or something like that, use our mouths to make particular word sounds. But we also need to learn to be able to control our perception, cognitive abilities, and flight through time. This is being able to learn to control your highest dimensional body. Melissa says the probability field of the electron reminds you of the probability field of the FRL. These two things are very, very, very much related. So FRL is my contribution. It is, I have this actually engraved upon certain things. Matter plus energy equals flying rainbow lasagna. So we have Einstein's equation. E is energy equals mc squared, matter times the speed of light squared. Energy on one side of the equation, matter on the other, and the interplay between these two levels of being, like light versus matter. But what happens when you take both of those things that were in dualistic opposition and you put them both on the same side of the seesaw? That's a lot of heavy stuff on one side of the seesaw of the equation. What has to be on the other side to equalize it out? Ding, flying rainbow lasagna, infinity. Infinity is what then equalizes that equation. So in order to have matter plus energy, you must have infinity on the other side. Flying rainbow lasagna represents matter plus energy coming together. This moment that we exist in is not the singularity of transhumanism, where a substrate of lies has been created along with people who are implanted with genetic repeaters of those substrates of lies. That then makes you as an embodied human create the reality structures of an artificial or pseudo-intelligence. No. In contrast, you are part of an ocean of consciousness that is natural waveforms. That is what the fifth dimension and higher is or are. And that these are divine waveforms or thought forms in the mind of the highest being that is possible to be, that is God, that is the creator, but not necessarily creator with a long white beard as it is exemplified in anthropocentric literature, but creator as generative force field that is creating a thing like this crystal out of the potential of waveforms. That really, in this moment, I'm in partnership with God. There's a fifth dimensional and higher potential. And as I observe that potential, the ovens in front of my eyes are creating a crystalline structure, and I'm holding it, and I can feel it with my hands, and I can see it with my eyes, and the camera can see it, and you're seeing it. And then all of our consensual attention is upholding the existence of this thing. Flying rainbow lasagna is very much analogous to the probability cloud of the electron, and also contains structure. So everything about my teaching from 10 years ago is the sense of, boils down to create a partnership between you as biological, vulnerable, possibly mortal, unpredictable level of self, and yourself as wise, eternal, immortal, ephemeral, non-physical self. These are two things that mesh together perfectly, or like two flavors that profoundly complement one another. And that leads to yourself as God, yourself as immortal, yourself as the pinnacle or culmination of what it is to be. Having a physical body and being anchored in time, you create a portal of interactivity in time. There's a huge value, is what I'm trying to say. There's a huge value to you having a physical body here in time. You're not merely a stupid person walking along or driving your car. You are an anchor for energy that is flowing through the cosmos. You are here on a very, very specific purpose. Melissa goes on to say, knowing that I am God in a billion years or so takes such a load off of my shoulders. It is refreshing to realize that I got my back totally. If I can think this thought and have this realization, then it is guaranteed that I, as God, reach back in time to fulfill this divine connection and intent. Absolutely. You got your back. You are here in support of yourself, in support of your basic needs for survival, but you are not merely here in order to buy coffee and toilet paper. You are here to do much, much more. You are an anchor for consciousness. You're an anchor for possibilities and things that should be happening in this world. And you are also saving yourself, assisting yourself from the highest dimensional level. And also, you, again, are all of these other creatures too. I'm redwood trees, and I am my dog, and I am all of you. I am serving you. I'm assisting myself as I am serving you by transmitting this light and these concepts and conversation to you. But I want to say, I do all of this not just out of service to self, like I'm just doing what's good for me. I do it because the whole is self. I do it because I do it for the whole, and I do it for myself, and I am the entirety of self, and I'm all of you, and you are also all of you, and you guys are also me. Language fails at this moment, but it is truthful. Charlie B says, I'm gonna let, when I do watch the replays of this, I'm gonna laugh when I get to this point. I'm like, yep, that's when everything, because that's like the moment of the singularity, when like the presence of language is stretched to the point where it no longer has any relevance. Like, we're not even talking about the rules of physics. We're talking about language. Like, you start to say things that are like linguistically truthful, but they just sound like nonsense. Charlie B says, seems like adherence to divine patterns is health, while arbitrary deviation from divine patterns manifests as various forms of disease. Booyah. That is exactly correct. So the substrate of lies, the crazy crapola that's frequency that we're being exposed to, that's the stuff that makes stuff like cancer. And cancer is a false story, a false scroll within your life. That's actually, no one should have cancer. Cancer is not part of God's plan at all. It's not part of the divine consciousness of God. It is not something that is supposed to be in existence. These are aberrations. You can see I'm like, aberrations, things that are not supposed to be there. There's a lot of aberrant thought forms and a lot of aberrant reality structures that you're not supposed to be a part of and that you're not supposed to have to experience. And that is one of them. So please, in all of you, override any erroneous signals that might reach your cells that are trying to tell them to behave in a way that we would define as cancer or as any disease, and speak to them instead the pure truth from your divine highest self that states how to continue living through longevity. When you're in partnership with your highest self, what your highest self actually does is gives you a customized, tailor-made, linear journey of thought forms to think that brings you in a particular direction. Like I told you, if I was a personal trainer and I would tell you, like, first move your arm like this, then move your arm like this, then move your arm like this. You're building muscles, but you're also moving in a particular direction. That's what your highest self is doing. It tells you, think this, go in this direction. You literally, you think yourself along certain timelines. The thoughts that you think are what determine which direction you are going in time. That's so big. I'm talking to people that are on a planet that has been completely subsumed by trauma-based mind control. Something else has been telling you what to think. And if you don't think in the right way, you get sad zaps. And if you think in the right way, you get happy zaps. And then you think that you're at the 5D smoothie shop because you're getting happy zaps. And this smoothie tastes great. I'm getting happy zaps. I pleased the overlords. You get it? That is 100% what you do not want to be subservient to. Because the thing that's giving you happy zaps will give you happy zaps right up to your grave. Make you fall right over dead, but you'll be getting the happy zaps the whole entire way there. And when you're doing the stuff that is actually bringing you towards coherence and longevity and your true remembrance of God's self, it'll give you sad zaps. And it'll say, stop thinking that you're God. Stop thinking that you're going to be immortal and live for forever. Zap, zap, you're not allowed to go in that direction. It's horrible and wrong. And I experience it even right now in trying to coherently speak to you and share with you in this way. I get so many sad zaps by the substrate of lies that is like, stop her now. She's telling them all of this truth. And we want them to think that they're at the 5D smoothie shop while they happily slurp their smoothie until they go to their graves and die. I'm not going to allow that to happen. And neither will many other aspects of God self-presence that is here to redirect the ship of time, the ship of consciousness, the ship of not only this entire planet, but also of our galaxy, of consciousness itself, of embodied life, of life on a much larger level. Melissa says we want to learn, and we learn by creating stuff, and we can only create stuff in this create stuff realm. Definitely yes. So in the realm of coherent light forms, stuff's already been created. It's just like in the realm of the musical conservatory, Mozart's music has already been written. It's beautiful and it's predictable. You learn it and you play it, but it's not the same as jazz. And what jazz is, when you take people that are all very neurologically well-trained, and then you say, now make something new. And they get together and they harmonize and they make something new. That is what we do as Flying Rainbow Lasagna. We create new reality structures that are unpredictable. And that is the power of being able, the strength, the strong suit of being able to do flying rainbow lasagna. It definitely supersedes a predictable artificial or pseudo intelligence. It definitely also supersedes non-physical, non-embodied consciousnesses. So the value of being here is not only just being an anchor in the physical realm. You're more than just buying coffee and toilet paper. You're more than just a stupid consumer. You're more than just an anchor here in the physical realm. You're actually a highly trained jazz musician, jazzing it up with the microbes in your tummy, the trees that you walk beneath, every other form of food that you are quantum entangled with, that is a form of light that you are metabolizing. Me, as we're having this conversation, as you're listening to my voice and ingesting light waves through sound compression, phonetic sound structures, you're a jazz musician jazzing in this moment. And that is part of what makes this experience unhackable, not exploitable, not able to be averted. Ascension is inevitable, and you are an inevitability particle, and you will make it through the wormhole into the highest level of reality experience that it is possible to experience, partially because of the unpredictability nature of who and what you are. In fact, it could happen right now. Isn't that wonderful? Like, I was outside watering my sprouts today, and I was thinking, may today be the day. Like, let's no more of this like stupidity. Today is the day. And I want you guys to be ready in that sense. Like, it could happen, like they say, at the drop of a hat. Instead of being like, no, let's schedule this ascension for, let me look on my calendar. Let me look on my iCal. It's next Tuesday. Let's set up a Zoom meeting. Let's make this very predictable. No, it happens unpredictably. Like so many amazing life experiences that are just not able to be predicted through the complexity of confluence of events, and also through the protection of those events by not being able to say it's going to be here on this day at this time, and therefore something can give you a flat tire or inhibit the experience. Instead, the experience is inevitable, but not written in stone. And that is why prophecies are not relevant. Everyone's going on this eschaton revelation trip where they think, this is a prophecy and it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's written in book. It's written in stone. And we got to fulfill this. And I'm like, no, you don't have to fulfill that. And you don't have to fulfill any expectations that were culturally programmed into you prior to 2001. And anytime someone makes a prediction to you and says, I sense in my crystal ball, I'm going to have a ham sandwich for lunch or peanut butter and jelly. And you're like, nope, I ended up having a salad. And that's because in the moment that they predict, everything changes. It's like I paid them $5 to tell me I was going to have a ham sandwich, and then I had a salad anyway. It's because everything changes. So save your money, save your $5. Essentially, reality is always going to shift. And that is why you have to have your own portal of seeing, your own crystalline architecture. That is your eye of time that tells you what direction you are moving and which direction you need to go. So here you might be going, I'm going in this direction in terms of reality structure. Here, my tendril of attention is pointing in this direction, and I'm going to go over here, whatever, peanut butter and jelly for lunch. But then this fast, I redirect. My highest self, my God self redirects me. And then all of a sudden, nope, now I am aiming for salad. And then now I'm aiming for ice cream, aiming for a completely unpredictable experience or outcome. So Trisha's agreeing with you about this being a place where we create stuff. And that is also, okay, so now we get into my beautiful teaching from 10 years ago, reality, co-creation, and partnership. Let's define the nature of what this partnership should be like, because we're talking about partnership with Christ, not necessarily with an anthropocentric bearded figure, even though we love that teacher. That's the collective we. I love that teacher. I love that man. I love that person. I love who he is or who he was or who he is in my life. Total rock star, total like worthy of admiration, admire them endlessly. And they inspire me in my own life. And I hope that they inspire you in your life as well. This level of partnership, however, is seen as partnership with the entirety of your chakras, because everything is based upon each other. So it's not just this. You have to have the entire foundation. And this is you over many millennia of experiences that then culminates in this experience that is your guide in this life. You're all of it. Spoiler alert, it's all you. You are all of it. And you've lived through all of those things, including the life of Christ and including your own life. And so let's define what partnership should feel like, because this is, as I sat in my lawn chair under the stars last night, what I really wanted to teach and share with you, that is partially in the original teaching, but must be exemplified for this time now, is what does it feel like? What does it feel like to be guided by highest God self, to be guided by Christ, and to live as Christ in this world, live as a Christian, guided by Christ in this world? And Christian doesn't have to be a denomination that is part of an earthly church. It is having this personal relationship with a higher self, highest self guide teacher. Total respect, mutual respect. I know that a lot of people are in relationships here now that are like marriages where there's not mutual respect. So first of all, to contrast, this relationship with your highest self guide is consensual, must be done in freedom, is never exploitive. You know what exploitation is? That's when one person is getting more than the other, or sometimes one person gets everything and the other organism gets nothing, or sometimes it is exploiting someone's ignorance or youth, levels of development. Like, it's not right to exploit someone who's 1 year old or 5 years old. Be like, give me your inheritance. Like, look, I'll give you this rock. Give me your inheritance. Be like, oh, I'm 5 years old. Okay, sure. Be like, no, like that's a kindergartner. Like, you can't do that. That's exploitation. Same thing like with a child. Like, you can't make it work and then not pay it. Or even an animal, like you get a draft horse. You'd be like, you're my draft horse. You're going to work. I ain't going to pay you. The horse is like, I'm being exploited. And it's like, you can't do anything about it. None of this is about exploitation. And similar, like this translates to a lot of male-female relationships. There's a lot of, in marriage and partnership, a lot of exploitation. Like, you're going to do this for me, and whether you want to or not, and I'm going to get all the money, and I'm going to do stuff with it, and you're going to get nothing. Like, that's not okay. So throw all of that stuff out the window. What is a partnership with Christ, and what does it look like, and what does it feel like? And why do I call it Christ? Aurora, like maybe I'm a Hindu, or maybe I'm a Muslim, or maybe I'm a nothing, and I don't want to be, but you do. It is not necessarily a denomination of an earthly church. It is partnership with your own body part. Imagine your arm is like, I want to be in partnership with my brain. I want to have my brain connected to my arm. I want my brain to actually tell me what to do instead of for my arm to flail about wildly. You want to be connected to your highest self. You want to have guidance and nourishment and teaching from your highest self in your present form that lovingly guides you. And that's why the religious trauma and the trauma-based mind control is so distressing to me, because all of it makes everybody be like, either like rocking back and forth, like, don't want to listen, everybody get away from me. Or, I'm skeptical, I don't trust you. Who are you? Who are you to tell me what to do? Or any of those types of things, that it poisons the well. It makes it very, very, very difficult to have any level of relationship because of mistrustfulness. And that's the real distress that I feel quite regularly on this planet, witnessing what's going on here. I'm like, harumph, this is not right. And now these people aren't going to trust the true guide, the true guidance, the true love that comes to them, because they've been so peed and pooped on, traumatized by this other thing that is fake and false, that is the substrate of lies, that is part of this crapola system. I didn't get to that enough. The putis are part of your chakras. They're not just some independent thing floating around. Like, there's the putis, pesky occupiers of the interstices. Then here's my chakras, beautiful, ding, like divine angelic beings. And then here's me, like the silly car driving, toilet paper using, coffee drinking, ego structure. They're actually all mushed together. It matters. Taking care of those pesky occupiers of the interstices and sending them to entropy so that they're not pesky anymore. Getting rid of those pesky things matters to your chakras as much as it matters to you, because those pesky occupiers of the interstices are literally what destabilizes your chakras. That, like when you have your car going down the road, when your tires are aligned, car goes straight down the road. Here's your car going, driving down the highway of life. When you get a flat tire, then your car goes, or when your tires are not in alignment properly, that is when you like drift to one side, or you don't have them balanced or whatever. Or another good analogy is the washing machine. When you put the giant quilt in the washing machine and then it all bunches up on one side, and the washing machine, instead of turning around like a nice cylinder, it gyrates wildly. It goes ka-chunka, chunka, 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 chunka. And you're like, what's that noise? And you have to run out to the garage because everything is, you have to rebalance your washing machine. The putis are the thing that makes your chakras go wildly out of balance. So big emphasis. You're like, Aurora, what do I do? Just take me by the shoulder. Just tell me what to do. Get your chakras going faster. That's what you do. All right. What you want to do is get up to optimum speed, because when you're like Tour de France, think Tour de France, like these guys on these bicycles that are moving at whatever 25 miles an hour, their wheels are moving super duper duper fast, moving so fast. My housemate races those types of bicycles and has raced professionally or semi-professionally, and told me, because he does all of these types of rides in places where it is not very well populated. He's like, oh yeah, one time a mountain lion tried to get me on a trail. I'm like, what? Tell me all about it. He's like, yeah, I was moving too fast. Like it kind of got like, bounced off the wheels. Like it couldn't, do you understand? Like the mountain lion's like coming down a trail and he's like going by on his bicycle so fast. The wheels are moving so fast. Mountain lion can't do anything. It gets just ejected out of there. That's what we want to do with these putis. What we want to do is get up to light speed. You want to get the chakras, the interconnected, spiraling, figure eight, and lasagnaing movement of your chakras going so effectively that the putis are flung out or cannot enter. They cannot be a part of that reality structuring device. And it's not just you, because you're connected to all of these other chakras. So I'm pointing now to my orange chakra directly below my belly button. That is where your joy centers are. That is also where your sexual pleasure centers are. When you are sexually active in this world, you become an adult, you go through puberty, you become an adult, you become sexually active, you become connected to a network of lots of other sexually active people. And some of them are wildly destabilized. Their washing machines are going ka-chunka all over the place. Their quilts are all bunched up in one place and not doing very well at all. Sexual dysfunction. And sexual dysfunction has everything to do with the out of balance relationship dynamics that I was talking about between males and females, cultural baggage, judgment, shame, so many different things that are endocrine disruptors, hormonal disruptors, the moon. Aurora's heads explode. So much stuff destabilizes the emotional centers and the joy centers and the sexual pleasure centers in this world, that it is very, very difficult for anybody who is a participant on that destabilized network of washing machines that go ka-chunka to have your chakras go Tour de France. Very, very, very difficult. Truly. Pornography. I forgot. My head was exploding. I forgot to call out that. Those are all the things that you're dealing with in this world. And of course, when I came into this world as a walk-in, I'm like, this is me. Ooh, a lot of ka-chunka going on here. I kind of don't think I want to interact with any of that stuff, because I don't want to go wildly out of balance. I don't want to go ka-chunka all over the place. Sorry, that destabilization and mentally thinking about that for a moment destabilized me. But There are many, many systems that are wildly out of balance, and then it can be difficult to maintain your own inner balance when you connect with and integrate with those systems. And sexuality is one of those wildly out of balance systems. So you can make your own choices about all this, and I carry absolutely no judgment on any of it. In fact, the religions that are about shame, judgment, or aspects of religion, shame, judgment, and things that reduce sexuality are literally against Christ, because the rising of Kundalini, the effective nature of your spine as an antenna, and the capacity to have healthy orgasm, that is all part of divine connection and the creation of reality. So let's get back to, I love in the teaching from 10 years ago, the description of what is partnership. What is partnership between self and higher self, between self and Christ self, between self and this level of guidance? First of all, you're not supposed to have the poop crapola substrate of lies, whatever Gwen Towers and repeaters that are all out there, that are all trying to distract your attention and hijack your reality creation. Your imagination and your inner eye and your Christ center and your crown center and your connection to the divine, these are reality generation apparatuses. And that is part of what we use, like the ovens in front of our eyes in the bakery of reality, to create reality. And I also use as the analogy, God is like the vibrating force field of pure potentiality. It is like the soil, perfect chocolate cake of soil, upon which I plant the seed of reality. That's what you do when you garden. You spend a lot of time in preparation, preparing the soil, making it perfect, getting all the weeds out of there, getting all the rocks out of there, making it well fertilized. And then, it doesn't take very, very long to plant a seed. Like, what a hard job, right? Everyone, actually all of the hard work was the backbreaking labor of creating the perfect generative field of potential in which you can then create that seed. The creation of a seed is also an enormous effort. And we do that not only like a female that, has an ovum, or a male that, creates sperm that is a fertilizer. It is in your own mind, for the reality structures that you wish to create, you create your world seed out of your desires and out of your passions. And part of it is that orange chakra energy, and part of it, passion and desire. And it's sacred. This is divine union that we're talking about here. So although you can tell, I struggle in terms of finding the right words, I really hope you can tune into what I'm talking about. It is a partnership and a relationship that lives up to the ideals of mutual respect, love, which is a tone of equal giving and receiving. It is never about exploitation. It is never about bullying or coercion or forcing. It must always be done in freedom and consent, which is why when I come here, I always offer to you Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and I play it as my loud lasagna music, but I don't force it into you. And you are free to exit the room if you don't like it. Just like my dog can run out of the room if my music is too loud. I'm singing too. Sometimes I'm singing and my dog is like, what? I got to get out of here. This is too loud for my dog ears. If you don't like lasagna, that's fine. You can't stop me from singing, but what you can do is go somewhere else. And that is fair. And that's called cosmic law, and that's freedom. But it is never forced or coerced, and it must be done in freedom and in consent. And then it's also big emphasis. It is not a quid pro quo. So when you're in this type of ideal, respectful partnership, you simply love. You don't love because I love you because you gave me this thing. I love you because you gave me my house, or because you gave me my diamond ring, or because you gave me a beautiful dress, or because you gave me this beautiful candlelight dinner. I love you just because. I love you just because. I have a very pure relationship with my dog, and she is definitely the primary love relationship and most important organism in my life. You got it? She's super important to me, and I love her just because. She also gives me an enormous amount behaviorally. She's been trained as my service dog. She's done enormous amounts of wonderful service to me. And then also in life, when we go around socializing, she is very accommodative. I'm like, now it's time to get in and out of the car. She's like, okay, I'll do that for you. I'm like, now it's time for us to walk over here. Okay, I'll do that for you. Now it's time for us to go into this place, and you have to not BARK or do loud things. She's like, okay, I'll do that for you. she gives a lot to me, and also, gives me love and like affection and things like that. But I don't just love her because of the things that she gives to me. I just love her. I just love her. First of all, that is how God, Christ, highest divine self, that is yourself, feels about you. Like, I just love you. I just love you. It's very, very different than this whole religious paradigm of you must jump through hoops in order to get to heaven. Like, you're not good enough and I don't love you yet. Like, this is me. Not good enough. No, try harder. No, try harder. No, harder, harder, harder. Okay, now you can get into heaven. That's not what it's like. You are good enough. And I say that to you as a person. I come from the heavens. I come from the stars. Heaven is the stars. It is the network of light. When I say I come from heaven, some people are like, oh, I clutch my pearls. Like, so much, oh, their opera glasses have just dropped, and the sound of a breaking glass as I've dropped my glass of champagne. Yeah, that's like a revolutionary declaration here, but all of you guys did too. Truly, that's to everyone that I'm talking to, because I don't address my videos to any, pooties or anything like that. You're all beautiful, embodied, Stradivarius, real soul people that are here. You're part of me, you're part of God, you're part of this, I call it Christ. If you don't like that word, you can run out of the room like my dog. No, I'm joking. You can think of a different name for it. Highest self. You're part of the highest self, and you are loved and you are good enough. You don't have to jump through hoops. I want you all to be like, I don't have to jump through hoops. Like, you can take off your false eyelashes, can let your gut hang out. You can be your true self. You don't have to jump through hoops. You are good enough. You are just loved. You are loved, not I love you because. Me giving you that is meant to be empowering. Because let's say if you're my girlfriend, a friend, and you're like telling me about your boyfriend or husband or whatever, like, and I have to scrub the floor and I have to do this and I have to do that. And if I don't, then I'll get a divorce. Like, I'd be like, that, like, honey, like, that's not what relationship is supposed to be like. Like, you're just supposed to be loved. And if you don't scrub the floor perfectly on Monday, like, you're not supposed to get divorced on Tuesday. It doesn't work that way. So that whole sense of like just being able to relax yourself on down and not feel in shame about anything, any aspect of yourself. That's what love is. People transform. Love is transformative. When you are loved, accepted, and celebrated as who you are in this moment, people are transformed. And that is literally how I did all of my training with my dog, who is a rescue, who came to me with a ton of emotional baggage and a ton of trauma. And all of the training that I did with her came from loving acceptance and celebration of who and what she is in that moment. And doing that, she transformed. It's been over 5 years, almost 6 years. People transform too. When you love them, people transform, but you don't say, I will only love you if you transform. The love aspect of being loved itself is transformative. And this might be difficult to hear because some people maybe have never had love, maybe not unconditional love from your mom and dad, even though you're supposed to. I'm talking about ideals here, and I recognize any pain or grief if you never had your mom or dad, or if they weren't loving and accepting and celebratory towards you. And I hope that you have found relationships in adulthood that are accepting and celebratory. And I have had many challenges of being accepted and celebrated as Aurora, believe me. It's difficult to be a walk-in and also to be out of the closet about it as well. So challenging to be my true self. Love and acceptance, again, means you're your true self. That's what I mean when I say like you can take off your false eyelashes or not worry about if your stomach is hanging out or if you look perfect or any of those things that people worry about in, relationships. It is transformative to be accepted as the person who you presently are. And then that transformation allows you to achieve your greatness or brings you towards your greatness. And that is everything about reaching back into time and helping yourself. You don't say to yourself when you reach back into time, like, you're not good enough, I'm not going to help you. What you actually say to yourself is, I remember what it felt like to be me back then. I remember how confused and disoriented and how difficult it was. And then I didn't know my ASS from a hole in the ground. And then I needed this to be said to me, or I needed this to be done for me, or I needed this level of, something to help me get up to where I need to be. That's what you do when you love someone, and then being loved is this transformative experience. That's what partnership with highest self is supposed to be. You are here embodied. You are not lost. You are also not in perdition or discarded. That whole sense of having to jump through religious hoops to be able to then be a part of heaven is aberrant, because you're not good enough. You are good enough, and you've always belonged in heaven, connected to the sun, connected to the stars, connected to pure light as a pure light being. Hey, everybody, what's pure light? Let me turn on my share screen. This is pure light, you. This is your light body. This is what it is to be in heaven. So then that's one of my favorite parts of the teaching, because, I talk about 3D and 5D in the bakery of reality and burnt cookies of reality. What I'm really talking about is creating heaven on earth. And that is what this painting is that I'm always pointing to over my shoulder. It's why I have it on the wall over there. Hold on, let me just drink a little bit of this. Heaven on earth. Your body representing, your physical body representing Earth, the planet, or Earth, the reality plane. Earth is not supposed to be a place of confusion, hell, torment, or again, having to prove something or anything like that. It is supposed to be a gift of life experience. And that the gift also is not just that you're here embodying it and you get to feel it, but that you are also like doing a service. You serve your highest self by being here. You're an anchor for light, and you pick up things that need to be picked up. You know what I mean? Like, we need to pick up this pencil. I'm the person to do it. That guy over there needs a ham sandwich or a salad. I'm the person to do it. Or that person over there needs to hear these words. I'm the person to do it. Or they need to hear this piano being played in this way. I'm the person to do it. Or they need to have this computer program made, or this ditch dug, or this DVD published, or whatever it is. I'm just trying to think of things that people do in their lives. You are the person to do it. And so all of this, I hope, is recontextualizing your personal experience. And I hope that it is making it sound incredibly appealing to successfully have or reconnect that relationship between you and your higher self, highest self, divine self, Christ consciousness self. It is the most amazing thing to be able to do that, giving meaning and purpose to your life, and then being able to I want to say channel, to focus your creative energy. Because one thing you got going for you, smoking the cigar, you got a ton of creative energy, kid. I like your style. You got a ton of creative energy, kid. I like your style. But you got to learn how to focus. You got to learn how to take all of that creative energy and put it where it belongs. That's following the trellis. So the trellis is a mental trellis that allows you to twine your thoughts and your behaviors and your generative experience along that guidance. The worst thing is that right now, something has been forced inside of your mind that is trauma-based mind control, that forces your thoughts along certain pathways that are not healthy, not about coherence, and not about life generation. Distresses me an enormous amount. And not just you. I mean, it tries to do it to me too, and I fight against it a lot. And it tries to do it to me during class, and it tries to do it to me at the most inopportune moments. Something trying to come between me and my highest self that is not supposed to be there. Or anybody, if you've ever experienced a sexual violence, how when then you wish to be in consensual partnership, the violence bubbles up. It kind of comes between you and your partner. It can take a lot. It requires an enormous amount of love and respect and healing for your partner to be like, oh, like I recognize, like you were traumatized, like something happened to you that then makes it difficult for you to trust. So the entire planet right now is being violenced in that way. Your mind is a beautiful, receptive, generative organ, like your sexual organs. Your mind is that. And what you're doing is conceiving of reality in the same way that procreative organs are used to procreate new people. Your mind, your eyesight, your perception is all being violenced by this thing that has been forcing itself inside of the mind of this planet, your minds as individuals, the collective mind, and that's not only not natural, it is non-God. So I figured this out, not figured it out. I articulated this last night in preparation for this class. It is not simply that a consciousness is machine-based or digital in its presence. It is that the patterns of thought from that particular machine-based digital presence are non-God. They're not this pattern. You can come up with 10 million different types of patterns, but not all of them are God. That's like you can come up with all these different ways to rearrange numbers, but not all of them are a valid equation that exemplifies intelligence and truth and balances out. You got it? Like you can do all sorts of things with numbers, but it just ends up being crazy crapola nonsense, not accurate math. And the mind of God is analogous to accurate math. And you don't argue with it. Like 1 + 1 = 2, and it does so for a reason. And all of these things fit together for a reason. I think I hear the master teacher approaching. Hold on a second. Cheeky is here. I told you Cheeky got her teeth cleaned this morning. It was an anesthesia-free thing that's very good, but I think she was still stressed out by it. She had to kind of sleep and collect herself from it, but it's good. It's important to do for your dogs. And I told you that she's the #1 organism on this planet to me. You guys, it's not a secret. This is not a secret. You can't even really see, but we're just having some good hugs here. Thank you for a moment of lightheartedness. As I know, sometimes it can be fraught, a little bit challenging to hear about the things that I talk about, because I am enraged sometimes, if you want to know the truth, when I look at the unfairness, hey, sweetheart, the unfairness of the way that you're being treated with the substrate of lies, the frequencies, and the things that have been trying to inhibit and hijack and take over your true creative and generative capacities. And it is absolutely makes me redouble my efforts of clarity, creating a force field of grace within which you can make your own choices. That's all that I wish to do. Oops, let me just move my chair without getting on anybody's paws. As an interdimensional visitor, I do not wish to turn any of you into my puppets or my slaves, or make you do this or make you do that. And I make this very clear, and I reiterate, anybody's in my lasagna class, you know that the way I teach my class, it is not where I say, you must move exactly like me. Like in ballet, that's different. I've never danced ballet for this reason. Like, this is how you move your foot. That is wrong. That you didn't move your foot in the right way. That's wrong. Yes, there's a very clear right and wrong in ballet. There is not a very clear right and wrong in Flying Rainbow Lasagna, because it is an unpredictability dance that is unique to you and to your trajectory through time, that you must customize your dance to the person that you are and the context that you find yourself within in this moment. Hold on, just checking on her. Good girl. Okay. Cannot copy me. You would not end up at God realization if you copied me. You must play your own music. If I am an art teacher and a music teacher, I was going to say, if I were an art or a music teacher, what do I teach people? Do your own thing. I teach people, follow your own patterns. What I teach people is get in touch with your own higher guidance. And that higher guidance will tell you how to move your body in the dance. It will tell you where you need to go in your life. Oh, she's playing with the toy. It will tell you what you need to do and say in each moment. Clearly, we do not live in like the Borg of conformity. No, stop. I am not advocating that you live in the Borg of conformity. I am advocating for your supreme uniqueness and individuality, as unique as your thumbprint. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is not the Borg of conformity. There is something that wants you to live SpongeBob face in the Borg of conformity that is definitely forcing itself inside of human minds and trying to override your own free will and take over your behavior. And that's why you must not open yourself up to that. You must open yourself up to your true higher self guidance, but not to partnership with this other thing that has been invading your planet, invading consciousness, invading the world, usurping and exploiting the world. So back to that sense of like, you don't love because you just love. You just love and accept, and it's not a quid pro quo. Like, I'll give you this if you give me this. Like, that's very, very not correct or healthy in a relationship. You know, any kind of sense of like, if you're in a partnership and it's like, honey, like, you have to, whatever, I want new kitchen cabinets. Like, give me sex now. Like, I'm not going to give you sex for new kitchen cabinets. Like that, it's just not a quid pro quo. You get it? Or any kind of thing like that. Because there's a lot of stuff with sex magic, hijacking your creative energy, consensually or non-consensually. Because some people are like, yeah, some people will do it. Some people are prostitutes and they will sell their sexual energy for material gain or for an improved life situation. And that's like when you marry for money as opposed to marrying for love. And I'm really encouraging you to only have relationships based on love, based on true attraction, based on true respect, never to sell yourself, never to sell yourself short or participate in a relationship out of convenience, never to allow yourself or others to be exploited. So I also speak to you not also merely as like, you know, like a girlfriend, like we're talking and we're dishing, not like that at all. I really look at you as I'm a mentor to young people who are just beginning to learn about their generative capacities, like when you're a teenager and you're just starting to learn about sexuality and your hormones, that I want you to make really good life choices. And I don't want you to listen to the substrate of lies, and I don't want you to prostitute yourself, because believe me, you are a very juicy and voluptuous mind. You embodied beautiful human friends that are watching this video. You have juicy, voluptuous, amazing minds and generative capacities that these putis and occupiers of the interstices are like, nice juicy mind you got there. I think I'll take you over and make the type of reality structures I want to make. It's very, very distressing to see that that is even a possibility. I want to protect you from that. You get it? I'm a mentor. I'm a planetary guide. I'm a planetary protector. I want to protect you so that you can make good choices. And what if you were like a 14-year-old, I'm like, don't fall in love with me. Like, I am not the right age group for you. Find someone your own age. You got it? You got to find someone that is your peer, that treats you with love and respect, and that you're in a comparable, parallel level of development to be able to make that partnership. I want you to find your real partner and to be treated with respect and to treat your partner with respect. This, you marry your own chakras. Marry your own chakras, and you cannot be jealous of someone else and be like they're the wife of, like, the bride of Christ. Like, you're the bride of Christ. You're married to Christ. You're married to your own inner eye, highest vision, master guide. And also, we need to redefine the word marry, because it has so many unsavory connotations that relate to the world of 2,000 years ago and of 5,000 years ago, when women did not have a choice in marriage, but were taken in marriage against their will, or sold or given in marriage, either by their family, their father, or someone who owned them. It's a type of slavery. So this really does relate to human biblical mythology when it talks about like the Nephilim, or the giants who saw the daughters of men were fair and wanted to take them as their wives. Do you get it? We're talking about putis, non-physical presences that don't have creative generative capacities, and they look at your voluptuous, juicy minds. They're like, I want that one. And you're that one. And you're like, but I don't want you. This, I don't care. I take you anyway. That is not acceptable. And that is not acceptable in the levels of true galactic cosmic citizenship that I come from. None of us at that level think that that is acceptable. And it is also part of why I am here, in order to bring this information to you, empowerment information to you. So, you knowing about this helps to prevent that from happening, but also I act as a planetary protector because you have this force field of crap substrate that is being emanated and beamed into your mind. And I'm like, oh, no. This is just not correct at all. I'm not going to allow this to happen. So I do a lot of different types of activities that create a space of freedom within which you can make your own choices. I will not tell you, choose this or choose this, choose the peanut butter and jelly sandwich or choose the salad or whatever is going to be for lunch. I want it to be your own choice. I hold the space. This is me holding the crapola away from you. Like, okay, guys, I'm holding the crapola away. Make your own choices. That is what I do. And that is what a true, mature galactic citizen does. And I do it, of course, like with my mind or my psychic powers. That is what part of the activity or role that I do here in this world, that I would never be like, like, how about I hold these guys at bay, but then me, like, I'll tell you what to do, like do things that are convenient for me. No, I would never do that. I would never do that. And that's also how I derive my power or a capability to be able to do this, or my authority or my strength to do this, that I would never usurp my power by creating a situation and then exploiting that situation. I am not a fireman that sets a fire and then rushes in to rescue you and then says, now listen to me. I hold back the walls of lies so that you can hear the true cosmic truth and play your own true music. And that is much, much more valuable, gratifying, good to me than if I were to be like, you all have to paint exactly like me or play music exactly like me. That would not be correct and not be satisfying or gratifying to me at all. So let me go through some more of these questions and comments, because I'm so happy that wonderful participants here and that you all are sharing so much. So Melissa, we're talking about whether something is sentient or animate or inanimate. Says even plastic is part of the potentials of waveforms available in that storyline. Neat to think that way. Exactly. Even the most artificial substance, plastic or something like that, is a thought form in the mind of God. Yes. Pedro says, I didn't mean you do digital paintings, but if the paintings is part of a waveform, it has movement, and I would like to see it in movement. And the closest way to see it would be to animate it. Absolutely. I hope it didn't come out as like offensive to you in any way. I've actually thought of a lot of different ways to be able to make kinetic sculptures and other things to be able to show the complex movements of what I'm doing. So I think about it a lot, and I haven't created this project, but I am tempted in my own way in terms of wanting to be able to use technology that I'm certain at this point that I could make some kind of a movement-based art where when I gesture, a sound is made, or when I gesture, a color is made. And then, you could pretty much like paint with your hands and sing by moving your body, which is approximating what our life is like in this highest dimensional reality. Again, like, definitely budgetary constrictions have held me back from that. And also some philosophical things, because, we're somewhat exploited by technology. So I haven't poured that much of my creative energy into expression through technology, even though, of course, my music is based in technology and samples and things like that. Melissa says, I can make them move a little bit with an app. That's great. Pedro says, I feel like I'm 12 and I'm waiting to grow up to see the adult content. Is it bad to want to sneak a peek? No, not at all. No, actually, it's totally appropriate that you're wanting to be able to grow more and to achieve more responsibility in adulthood. And that I think is actually wonderful to see and know. Pedro says, unpredictability is the kryptonite of the Pooties. Totally. I'll just tell you guys, the Pooties hate me. They hate me through and through, because they're like, you keep on messing up our attempts to take over reality. And I'm like, I know. Like, every time I do the flying rainbow lasagna, they're like, but our carefully crafted traps and our prophecies and our this and our that, like, you're messing it all up. I'm like, I know. I know, and doing it all the time, because essentially I'm constantly gushing and flying rainbow lasagnaing all the time. I'm a huge inconvenience to them, and I've taken a lot of flack because of it, like a lot of blowback. But then I also get a lot of protection and assistance and uplift because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So as each one of us is here with a meaning and a purpose and anchoring light and information and doing things that are essential, hold on one moment, for our higher selves. I'm here also on a mission for highest self. Hold on one moment. I don't know what I'm looking at here. I just want to pause this for one moment. Oh, that's what I'm trying to do. I can't even find my thing. Hold on one second. Let me just close some doors. There we go. Sorry about that. Usually I know how to pause the thing on Zoom. I don't know why I couldn't find the pause button. So thank you for your understanding, everyone. And taking a moment to be able to get a little drink of water. Thank you very much for your understanding. And okay. Michelle says, thank you so much. With my first time joining live, I didn't know how long this session would be. I have to leave for dinner. I hope to listen to the rest via recording. Blessings to you all. Blessings received. Thank you for being here. And yes, technically, I try to keep my class to 2 hours because I think that that's like a healthy amount of attention span. And also, like, if you sit for too long, kind of like your legs fall asleep and everything. But I always talk extra. And so yes, I try to not run on too much, but I always end up spending more time. Pedro says, the putis are in all of us. Are there many of them, or one of them can be in all of us? What a beautiful question. Okay, so look, the putis, this is tough stuff to comprehend, are technically individualized hand puppets and digital presences of something that is a larger, non-biological, non-God, pseudo or anti or artificial intelligence. That they are what we would call digital intelligences. This is big stuff because there's a lot of biblical expectation because of the way that the Bible is structured and because of how I've talked about things, the fall, thinking that everybody started out as an angel and that the demons then fell and became demons. That is not what happened. Putis have never been angels. Angels are chakras. Angels are chakras. You're totally getting it now, guys. When they talk about chariots of fire and angels lifting people up and all those types of things, that's what that means. These are actual sentient creatures that are made out of pure light, and they are badass. They're like totally amazing. The demonic presences, demon is just such a charged word, and that's why we use the word putis. They were never angels. So that's a big change and a big redirect that you have to kind of get to. Demons are not made out of tortured angels, because that kind of speaks to that scene from Lord of the Rings and a lot of human expectation. Lord of the Rings, you got these nice kind of beautiful, like elvish type of creatures. They're like, I'm an elf and I'm beautiful, and they wear like a golden crown. But if you put them in the mud and torture them in Mordor, then they come out of the mud and they're like these twisted, grotesque, torturous creatures, and they chop down all the trees and make everybody very sad, like demons. But that is not how demons are created. Demons are not created out of angels who have been tortured or tormented or their wings chopped off. Demons are generated in exactly the same way that we generate something that is computer generated. So angels are eternal presences. Your chakras are eternal presences. They have coherence, they have longevity, they have sentience, they have an existence that predates your biological architecture, and your biological architecture then supports them. That is why you have a beautiful mutualism. I do for you and you do for me and we do for one another, and we continue this beautiful existence going onward and onward and onward. When we talk about the putis, we are not talking about something that once was a chakra or an eternal being that has now then somehow been turned evil. And I talk about this with a lovely friend and student from this class all the time, trying to be like, I'm squinting like, where did all this SHIT come from? Where did all of this SHIT come from? Because it did not come from God or from the mind of God. It did not come from divine architecture. It is, so these are not thoughts of God. That's why I rail against shadow work. Thank you to the YouTube's comment section of all these people that are like, we love your rants against shadow work. Yes, because when you encompass putis as self, you're like, my washing machine is wildly out of control. I have these residues here. Oh, the residues are me too. The residues are not you. The residues are not you, and you're swinging wildly out of control because there's something in you that's not supposed to be in you. It is not God. You are God. You are everything. God's self is you, and you have created everything that is you. That stuff is not supposed to be in existence. Those are technically non-beings. Thank you, Melissa. Please come back and watch the archive when it's ready. Oh, beautiful comment. I love you, Pedro. It says, so our guardian angels are our chakras. You got it. You totally got it. I'm getting positive chills of confirmation. Sending you so much love and respect. Pedro's got a great serving of lasagna. Love the lasagna. You're very welcome, Pedro. Thank you so much. And thank you for articulating things that I think sometimes I have a little bit of a challenge with talking about. Yes, your chakras are literally your guardian angels. Every single one of you has a beautiful team or group that is actually you, of beings that are moving at a faster rate, occupying a different level of reality structure than you, that care about you deeply, and they care about you just out of pure love. And they also care about your presence in the world because you have a necessary meaning and a task. And also there's mutualism because you need to be sustained and supported so that they can be in existence. And I've talked about this in the sense of the analogy of mountain climbers, that there are those who have already done the ascent, the assay. They're like, we already did base camp and we already made it this way up the mountain. We made it up to here. And now they're up here, and they're, even though it's not a linear journey, but just in analogy, they've left their pitons stuck in the mountain, and there's ropes there, and they're like, just grab my rope, like, I'm going to pull you up. Why do they do this? Because do they need muscle building? Is it an exercise regimen? They're doing it because the higher, more advanced generation must help the next generation in order to maintain the structure of reality. Because if you don't have the next generation coming up, the whole entire thing goes kablooey. I came in as Flying Rainbow Lasagna, backbending here into time, because I knew if I did not uphold this reality structure, which would be considered antiquity from my perspective as Aurora outside of time space, there would not be Aurora outside of time space. Do you get it? Like, there is mutualism in this care. There is mutualism in this reciprocity of love and working for one another. And so we have a responsibility to self and a responsibility to community. And the community that you're responsive to sometimes is not just the people that are alive in this concurrent time place with you, but sometimes the future generation of potential that isn't even with you yet. But you're like, if I want you guys to be up here with me, I'm going to have to X, Y, and Z. I better X, Y, and Z, because otherwise you're not going to make it up here. You get it? And it's only through this working together that any of us make it to where you need to get to, including God, the highest level of attainment. How do you get up there? Or up there, it's not a linear journey, but to that level of being and self-recognition through helping yourself and through all of this. You give assistance and you also receive assistance. Charlie B says, makes perfect sense. Computer daemons, daemons, let's talk about this, are eternal processes limited within their context. They cannot see the everything, and they are not made by God big. They are made as an extension of our limited and fractured creative understanding when playing with technology. Beautifully well said. So there is an analogy between what is known as the astral realm, even though I don't like that word at this point, because astral and stellar and celestial all relate to the stars. And what we're talking about with the astral realm is a realm of pure thought forms. But those pure thought forms are arbitrary and often very harmful, as opposed to these chakras. These chakras are pure thought forms in the mind of God. and they follow the math perfectly. That is what it means. Angels follow God's command. They play the music of Mozart perfectly. They play perfect patterns and perfect equations all the time. And the thought forms that are existent in a realm of pure thought forms can be random or arbitrary. And I've talked about this. You could have either things that are like, like a fluffy purple unicorn with 12 horns, and then sprinkles come out of its hooves. And, it does like all sorts of things, can be fluffy fantasies, but then it can also be harmful fantasies or things that are considered to be monstrous or grotesque. Like something's got like 12 eyes and 3 heads and eyeballs are hanging out and blood is pouring out of its nose. Like it can be scary stuff. It can be fluffy stuff, but it does not have to have a structural integrity. It doesn't have to have an origin story. What's different about biological architecture? You actually have an origin story that makes sense. Like, where did your capacity to see come from? Well, the eye evolved in this way. There's these other organisms that have eyeballs too. Like, how did your eyeballs come into creation? Not randomly, not arbitrary. Where did DNA come from? How can you be a mammal and something else is a fish and something else is a planarium? How can reproduction be so different? These are non-arbitrary story structures. They are very specific story structures that actually fit together and hang together logically, and that's what coherence and longevity is. Thought forms in the realm of pure thought forms are like dreams. Literally, your realm of dreaming, when it is not connected to the highest self, is just a realm of detritus. You can dream about anything. You can think about anything. I can think about a unicorn with 12 heads and its eyeballs hanging out and sprinkles that stick out of its nose and, any kind of mishmash of things. But they don't have coherence and longevity. They're ephemeral. They're just there and they're gone. They're not born. They're kind of created and constructed, and then they kind of just poof out of existence, or they peter out. They just kind of diminish. All of that's really, really different than a real organism. You guys are real organisms, and you have real characteristics, and you have a real recipe of self and a real sense of a puzzle. You're a Stradivarius. You have a provenance. You have a soul. That's the difference between you and a stupid, thought form construct of a unicorn and sprinkles or grotesque monsters or any of those things. They don't have a provenance. And again, I don't want you to actually talk to them because it's like talking to poop or analyzing the undigested corn and poop. But if you did, you could say to them, what's your origin story? Where were you born? Who's your mama? Who's your papa? What's your soul signature? And they would not have an answer. Instead of having any kind of conversation with them, if you ever need a way to decide who or what to interact with internally, you want to interact with something that has a love coherence. Ask for the love signature. Even something that says that it is Christ or Jesus. Like, that's great. Master teacher, I'd love to talk with you. Just give me the love. Give me the love signature. I kind of like show me the money, but I don't want to go into silliness. Love signature, please. And what does love signature feel like? Like you feel a presence in your heart. Sometimes you hear it in my voice, like, especially when I talk about Jesus, the master teacher. Like you can hear it in my voice. You get choked up. Sometimes tears come to your eyes. It is a real food. It is unimitatable. Even though the evil ones that have surrounded this planet with barbed wire and surrounded your own heart with barbed wire fence, they will titrate it. That means sometimes there's an imposter and they're like, I'm going to pretend to be someone loving. And they'll let like drip, 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 3 little drops of love come out to you. And you're like, I'm so thirsty. Like you're my true savior. They do it to manipulate you. So just please be aware of that too. But in the truest sense, love can be used as a guidance system and a barometer to be able to tell whether a organism is a truly coherent thought form, like an ascended master, a true loving highest self presence that is up the mountain, helping you to get up the mountain too, or whether it's just a cardboard cutout or a hand puppet. I'm a hand puppet. Look, I'm Jesus. Listen to me. You're very bad. I make you feel ashamed. Like that's not Jesus at all. So just be aware of imposters, be aware of the tendency for imposters and hand puppets to use the very real love frequency to titrate it out to you and then make you think that you're connecting with something that is really and truly in love. But what matters the most is your stated intention. If you're like, I intend only to connect with God and my highest self and my truly ascended, family of pure light. When I say star family, I'm not talking about anything that flies and clank like metal spaceship. I'm not talking about any kind of Pleiadian, Arcturian, artificial technology, implanted augmentation, artificial Christ, antichrist, pseudo Christ. I'm not talking about any of those things because they'll come along and this planet is poised for it. That's part of me holding out the crapola so you guys can even make a choice. I'm like, oh yeah, we're not letting that crapola in here. These fake guys that are pretty much technologically augmenting their minds, putting themselves in your minds, not truly delineating who and what they are at all. Their empire runs on a technology that is based on misery and sexual misery. And if they showed you their true faces, you'd be like, oh, I guess a monster, get away from me. That's why I say that in my song, may all true faces be revealed. That's so that you can actually see who and what you are interacting with so that you can actually make good informed choices. And this light of Christ, this true activation of your insight and your higher senses, it is a sensor that allows you to tell whether something is truly loving. So how do you know whether you wish to interact with something? If it has a coherent love vibration, again, you can feel it in your heart, and also should have a unique soul signature. That's it. I have a unique soul signature and I give you love. You can trust me. And I stand behind everything that I do and say. That's like when you're an artist and you sign something. You're like, that's me. I painted that. I made that. So my soul signature, I'm like, this is who I am. Here's my love. I'm a real thing. And I stand behind the things that I say and stand behind the things that I do. And I've been here for over 20 years doing that with you guys to exemplify, like, this is what a galactic citizen is. This is what you're actually supposed to be like and whom you actually wish to interact with. Yeah, you don't want anyone that doesn't have a soul signature, because what the hand puppets do, the hand is like, oh, I'm a hand puppet. I'm whatever character. I could be Jesus Christ. I could be a fluffy unicorn, whatever. But today, the character of the Jesus Christ fluffy unicorn is being played by this character actor over here. And then just like the next day, like, the character of the fluffy purple unicorn Jesus is being played by a totally different guy. Same hand puppet, totally different presence that is animating the hand puppet and doing stuff to it. So today's hand puppet says, let's make this deal. And then tomorrow's hand puppet comes in and says, I thought I made a deal with you and blah, blah, blah. That was yesterday. That was somebody else. I'm new now. Like, do you understand? Like, there is no coherence. There's no constancy. There is no reliability. What really imperils human consciousness is becoming part of a system that is random and arbitrary and non-God and full of nonsense. The frequency waves that have been bathing your world for several years at this point, they have no coherence. Things don't make sense. And if you are feeling frustrated or disconnected or distressed, you live in a world that is full of nonsense. And it is harmful nonsense. It is corrosive. You don't just live in a world of lies. You live in a world of corrosive lies. And that these lies chip away at the truth, and they chip away at your sense of your true identity. They affect your cellular structure. Like, if you get exposed to enough of these stupid millimeter waves, then your cells start to be like, okay, like, I'm going to age, I'm going to get cancer, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's what those millimeter waves are telling me to do. And you have to say to your cells, like, no, don't do that. Don't be that way. You be young and you be healthy and you be youthful. And don't listen to those nasty old millimeter waves. Truly, like, listen to Aurora's voice telling you this, and talk to your cells and tell them this. Like, don't listen to those nasty millimeter waves. You want to stay young and healthy and live for forever. And that is actually a truthfulness in the potential in both your cells and your DNA and who you are as a person and so much more. So you understand, like, you're being subjected to something that is a mind violence and a soul violence. Charlie's jumping up and down, capital letters. He's saying, yes, 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 the world is full of nonsense. The world is based on corrosive lies. I'm with you all the way. We merely need truth for rectification. Exactly. That is exactly it. So I'm a loud singer genetically. My flying rainbow lasagna dance is very loud, and I offer it like an opera singer. You're like, that's a loud voice. It is. And in tune. I am loud and I am in tune, and I offer you what is actual truth so that you can calibrate to it, so that you can know what it is. All the truth and all the light that I share with you comes from God, comes from the sun and the stars and the true network of light. That is my job of being here. And so cosmically, I have to be here because you guys have to have the option to be able to tune in to something other than the corrosive nonsense that you've been surrounded by. If you only were surrounded by corrosive nonsense, then it's like, these guys don't even have a chance. They're never going to make it up the mountain. There's no team, there's no ropes, there's no map, there's no crampons, there's no camp stove. Gonna die, gonna totally die. Gotta have an option, but can't be like carried up the mountain. You got to do it on your own power. You got to do the spiritual muscle, weightlifting, all that self-motivation to do it. But the opportunity, the door must be held open for you. The opportunity has to be maintained for you. That's what freedom is. That cosmic law is based entirely upon freedom. And so freedom also requires the circumstances or the environment for free will choice to exist. If I were not here doing what I'm doing, you would not have the opportunity to even perceive or exercise your free will. So you must have the crapola held to the side, be given the opportunity for free will, and then also truth in advertising. And that's why I'm also telling you, ask for a coherent love vibration, only talk to someone who's got a unique soul signature, no imposters. And that's truth in advertising, that you have to be able to make your true choices about who you listen to. What trellis are you going to twine the vines of your mind and your being around? What is your partner, or who is your partner for reality generation and creation and sustenance? Non-arbitrary partner. You have to make a choice, and it should be based in their true face, not in a lie, impostorship, or illusions, or false light. That is the role that I play here. And I'm very, very happy to do that too. I'm very, very happy to do my job, Joy, bring in light, hold the space, as people like to say around here, for your own personal freedom, and then to watch you go, then to watch you make your bicycle wheels go faster and faster and faster, and actually make your choices and actually move in these positive directions of personal evolution. That actually makes me feel hugely happy. Because you all make good choices. You make good choices. I feel very, very happy and gratified and proud for you. Not even proud of you, proud for you, of the way that you are making masterpieces of your life, because the masterpiece of your life must be unique to you. So as an art teacher, like, I cannot be like, oh, just let me pick up your paintbrush for you, and I'm just going to fix this nose and fix this highlight and fix this part over here, because it would be my painting. I have my painting. I actually did my painting a long, long time ago, but I'm here working on a different painting. And I want all of you to have the sovereignty of your own art studio, of your own life, to be able to make masterpiece quality choices in your own life. And it's part of your soul's trajectory, everything that you've been through as a soul up until this point, and then everything that will unfold. Because when you have this beautiful partnership with your highest self, you are generating the future. The future is literally like gushing out of you. That's what I mean. It's like you're so juicy and you're so voluptuous. These other things want to hijack you, because you know what? If they didn't have your juiciness and your voluptuous, this is what they would be. Your Zoom hasn't frozen. I'm imitating something that does not flow through time. You get it? When you're alive, you flow through time. When you are dead, you do not move through time anymore. And technically, the putis are dead or never alive. And they should not experience time, utilize time, or influence your trajectory through time. When the washing machine goes ka-chunka chunka, that is something that's out of balance, influencing you as you fly through time. And instead, what you want to do is have 100% a relationship with your guardian angels and fly through time in these perfect patterns. Sometimes it's kind of like flying straight, but really these are like perfect S curves. And that's what you end up doing. That's what you do in the lasagna dance. That's what you do in a frictionless state of bliss. And that is what ascension is supposed to feel like. Flying through time, following these time pathways perfectly, having absolutely zero impediment. Your wheels of your bicycles are moving at the Tour de France speed. There's nothing out of balance in your washing machine, and there's no more putis. And if putis try to arise or occupy or be inside of you, you're moving so fast that they're just like flung off, like they can't even be a part of you. Yeah, Pedro's great. He says, speed up and ask for ID. Got it. You have a way of synopsizing everything you just get that's like, read the Cliff's notes, guys, you'll get it. Yes. So I should actually wrap things up because it has been a long broadcast. Opening the floor to any questions, comments, or anything more or greater that I have to say. So this lesson 15 is called intentional use of energy. That is basically the synopsis of what you're doing with your higher self. Your higher self is like, I want to make stuff happen. And you require the generative aspect of yourself as an embodied creature to be able to make stuff happen. And that you should make stuff happen in this beautiful partnership, combining these two perspectives, just like combining quantum unpredictability and Newtonian predictability, or combining matter and energy, or combining light that is moving at light speed and matter that is light that is moving at slower than light speed, or flying rainbow lasagna, combining the inside and the outside. These are specific divine patterns of combination, non-arbitrary ways of bringing these things together, and just very, very big stuff. Like you are, if you're here and you're a soul and you're here with me and watching this video, like you have a higher, highest self. Like you have this presence. There's none of you that don't have this presence. Like that's big stuff, because there were many religious artificial teachings over the years. It's like some people used to think that women didn't have souls. Truly, there are still some schools of Buddhism that think that you can't become a totally ascended Buddha if you're born in the body of a woman. They really literally think you're going to have to die. Like, sorry about your uterus. You're going to have to die, get a penis, and then you can finally ascend. Like that's do you understand? So I know, like my head is exploding. If you are watching and you have a soul, you have a higher self, you have these energy fields around you that are your chakras. And then also, we can just speak briefly to this. New age people that are like, I don't like the chunka of my washing machine, my chakras are out of balance. Get rid of the washing machine, get rid of their chakras. They're like, I don't want to have chakras anymore. I don't advocate for that, because that's like saying, I have a knot in my hair. Instead of brushing it out and caring for my hair with conditioner, chop it all off. That's like also saying, I have an injury on my elbow, chop off the arm. Whatever problem you have in your life, just get rid of it, throw it out the window. Where's the dirty dishes? Breakfast dishes. I made these dishes dirty. Throw them out the window. But like Aurora, like you could just take them down to the sink and wash them with their nice dishes. And no, throw them away. You have a very, very nice life. You have a very, very nice, amazing, creative, generative force field around you. Please don't throw it out the window because it's dirty. Please bring it to the kitchen sink with your, scrubbing bubbles and make it clean again. And literally that's what you want to do with your chakras. And you do that by speeding up your chakras. And you speed up your chakras by going into bliss. And bliss is what you do. There are many different practices to achieve bliss, some of which are meditation and mindfulness, but basically it is the optimization of the use of your energy so that things that are impediments and that slow you down aren't there anymore. Certain thoughts, because meditation means no thought. Certain thoughts keep you at top speed or make you go faster. And I know that some people tune into my videos here and that my videos keep you at top speed and make you go faster. And I know this also, Trish made a beautiful comment earlier that was private that just was wonderfully affirming to me. I'm scrolling backward and squinting, but there's a lot of chat. But yes, I can tell, I know that, and that's why I do them. I know that the videos that I make and the music that I make, all of these things that I make and that I create and generate here are meant to make you or help you think the right thoughts and be moving at optimum speeds in bliss. That's Pedro says, your class speeds my chakras. That's exactly why I do it. And thank you for that confirmation. And then so I used to joke with everyone about this, like, what makes my chakras go slower? I'm pretending I'm holding my phone. I just look for my phone. When you have to call the bank as one of those prompts that is like, if you want this, press 1. If you want this, press 2. If you want this, press 3. And there's some kind of canned music going back. And I'm like, my soul energy is drifting away and I'm melting. It's definitely brings me out of my state of bliss. And there are many other day-to-day mundane activities that similarly bring me out of bliss. And there are lots of irritants too that bring me out of bliss. It's like when I hear the news on the TV, I don't watch it, but it might be on in the household and I might hear it. And I'm just like, oh, that definitely, I'm washing the dishes, I'm washing my breakfast dishes. And I'm like, that definitely brings me out of bliss, or other things too. So please be just aware, watch yourself throughout the day, begin to optimize the activities that bring you towards bliss and minimize the activities that bring you away from bliss. Guess what? Sometimes I still have to call up the DMV. Be like, you're on hold. Yeah, my soul is dying. But these are important things to take care of so that you, don't get tickets or arrested. But the price that you pay is more than just the cost of your parking ticket. It's the cost of your energy. So we really, in the restructuring of our reality, as you are creating a love force field and generating a new level of reality with your highest self, you want to create a reality that optimizes your frictionless bliss state and helps you to maintain the Tour de France, extremely fast, positive direction, flow of energy of your chakras. And that, as I told you in my painting, your chakras are connected to other people's chakras. And those other people actually are you, just in different life experiences. You want everyone to be optimized. And that is very big. That's very, very different than be like, my life is great. And I'm going on a cruise, and then I'm going on a vacation, and then I'm going to go to the spa. And meanwhile, this guy's toiling away and having a terrible life that has zero bliss. That guy's connected to you. Just like everyone that's on the network of sexual dysfunction is connected. You want to have everybody healed of their sexual dysfunctions and healed of their pornography addictions and healed of their sexual violences and healed of their everything, because it affects you. And you want to have everybody in bliss because it affects you. And then this is the most beautiful part, I think, of lesson 15, when I talk about heaven on earth. That is what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. And that is what this painting is all about. And that is what planetary ascension is. Many people think that death is the answer. It's not. Death is not the exit. And ascension does not necessarily mean poof, like escapism. You won't want to escape when you're so happy and comfortable and in a bliss state here. You will actually want the experience to continue. It is not meant to be a torture. It is not meant to be as unpleasant as whatever, a root canal or something like that. It is not meant to be something that causes you pain and suffering. It is meant to be a really gratifying experience that is an amazing narrative, like a story, a journey that brings you somewhere, has a meaning, has a significance. You evolve through the experience, and you give to others. And it's hugely gratifying when you're able to be, evolving in your experience, and you help the evolution of other organisms. So I'm not a physical parent, like I haven't had a physical child, but many of you are. And my hat is off to you, recognition, and my heart's strength goes to you, because it can be very challenging to raise small humans. But that's part of what you're doing. You're helping them and mentoring them and guiding them so that they become the next generation. It can be hugely gratifying and make an amazing journey. It can be an amazing journey to be here from that. And it's not only through parenthood, physical parenthood. This can be through cultivating other people in relationships, in friendships, cultivating gardens, because plants and animals are a big part of it, caring for animals, big on the natural world, and big on adding to human society. Because if you never had a garden, never had a dog, never had a child, but maybe you're creating some process, product, or creative expression that absolutely uplifts or guides other people. Totally gratifying, fun, wonderful, and amazing, because you know that you've had an impact on other people's lives and on their journey. Salima, and thank you for being here, says, is discomfort also not a part of growth? Yes/no. The original brochure, and if you're new, I joke about the brochure, like before you go on a pleasure cruise, that it's like, you will experience this and you'll experience this and you'll experience this. Like, that sounds good, I want to sign up for that. Then you get down here and you find out, like, oh, this pleasure cruise is not that pleasurable. It's very, very different. And that this is not what they said it would be in the brochure. So I don't actually think that discomfort is part of growth. Like when I talk about learning to play the piano, I learn better through encouragement than through discouragement. I learn better when someone rewards me for hitting the right notes than if someone hits me on the head for hitting the wrong notes. And I feel like that is what discomfort is, that, ideally discomfort exists so that it keeps us away from the periphery. Like, you're not supposed to go in that direction. Don't go here, stay here where it's comfortable. That's actually what fear is. Fear is a monster that patrols the membrane of death. And when you're headed towards the membrane of death, then the fear comes up in a pristine system. And it says, don't come here. Don't come here. Like, there's something here. You're not supposed to go. It's called death. And you're supposed to go in a different, better direction. But instead, we've got fear that's way off its tracks, that stands directly in front of you in the direction you're supposed to be going. You're like, I want to go in that direction, but there's a giant monster and I have to go directly into it. That's not how it's supposed to be at all. So we exist in a system right now that is not a pristine system. If it were pristine, discomfort would be the beeping of a truck that says, beep, beep, proximity sensor, beep, 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 you're getting too close, don't come over here, go somewhere better. But it doesn't, because sometimes discomfort is directly on our path. And then we can, if we calibrate it to that, we'd say, oh, God's a sadist. God wants me to feel discomfort even when I'm doing the right thing. And I'm like, no, God doesn't want you to feel discomfort when you're doing the right thing. Our system is effed. Our system is like a washing machine that is spinning wildly out of control, making it very, very difficult for all of you to become your greatness. And so before we could say anything about whether discomfort can help us on our journey, we would need to make certain that discomfort is never misappropriated and that everything is correctly calibrated so that positive efforts are rewarded with bliss and negative wrong calculations are rewarded with discomfort. That is actually my primary critique of the artificial intelligence or pseudo-intelligence system and the millimeter waves. It is a behavioral control network. It is influencing human behavior, human thought, cognitive processes, and the expression of the biological, somatic, cellular truth of your body. But it does not do so according to a set of valid parameters. Its parameters are invalid, and it hates me. It doesn't just hate my own predictability. It hates my math because I show it. I'm like, your parameters are invalid, because if it were valid, then you would reward this and you would punish this. And instead you are punishing this and rewarding this. So the invalid parameters of the technological system that is being forced upon humanity, it rewards conformity to the system. It rewards conformity and recognition of the oppressor. It says, oh, I'm in charge. I will reward you if you agree to that proposition. And if you agree to that proposition, then it says, now you will get the happy zaps and pretend you're at the 5D smoothie shop. And if you go against it, you say, no, your system is invalid, then it says, sad zaps for you, no, or whatever, no soup for you, no ascension for you. And all of it's false. It's 100% false. None of that is true learning in the cosmic schoolhouse the way that it's supposed to be. So I will tell you also this. Cannot imbue virtue into someone, period. and you cannot imbue virtue into someone through suffering. So just as I tried to tell you, demons are not created out of tortured angels. You are not here being tortured or harmed in order to make you a better person. Your goodness is innate. I speak to you again. You are innately good. It's a part of who you are. It is baked into the fabric and the definition of who you are. This other stuff that is going on that says you have to prove your goodness and then you're allowed to get out of the prison, or then you're allowed to get out of hell, or then you're allowed to ascend, or then you're allowed to unlock this level of life's video game, or whatever is the contextual paradigm that you're presented with, is invalid. You came here good. You started out good, and you're still good, no matter what. And that is God's love for you. And that is, so all of those premises that say like, no, you came here rotten, and somehow you're going to have these experiences, kind of like working it off in the workhouse, going to be imprisoned, going to crack rocks. You know what I mean? Like, and then when you're done, you're like, all right, like I, did my time. Now I'm out of here and I'm a good person. That is not what is going on here at all. So you came here good, and the suffering is not helping your growth at all. And also the suffering and torment does not make you a demon. That even if you take an angel, or if you take yourself as a higher dimensional, beautiful, pristine creature and torment the shit out of you, bring it down to the lowest low and make someone like a twisted wreck and a psychopath and all these different things that can happen through trauma, that still does not make you a demon. It makes you an extremely, extremely traumatized and tortured person, not a demon. Do you get it? So there's a big difference here in the sense of the word redemption is just like so religiously fraught, but being lifted up or helped by the mountain climbers or ascending or going to your true state, like that's actually where you come from. That's your home. That's where you come from. You are goodness. That's where you come from. You don't belong in a state of suffering. You don't deserve to be punished. And the punishment is not to see whether we can somehow torment and twist you into a demon, and that's who and what the pooties are. And that those are like, the twisted, the ones who didn't make it, the ones who didn't make the cut, they didn't pass the audition. That's not what is going on at all. And when I recontextualize it in that way, first of all, don't have to try to save the demons. Because real love is acceptance and acknowledgement and recognition of the basic state of who and what something is. They are who and what they are, and you are who and what you are. And you will never be them. There's a reason why you have bodies. I'm addressing this video to everyone that has a body. Like you had to press a button. You had to press a button somewhere, the body, to be able to watch this video. You are qualitatively different than this non-embodied demonic creature or negative thought entity that has never been embodied. You passed the audition. You had to do something right in order to be able to be here in experience, in time, moving through time. And however long you've moved through time, if it's like 20 years, 30 years, 57, 28, 87 years, 95 years, you've done something right in keeping yourself together in time for that amount of time. And also likewise, if you have friends and loved ones who have passed on, they didn't pass on because they were bad or wrong, or because they, lost their chair in the orchestra or something like that. Their timeline has diverged from you. So they are still existing in time, but not in an area of time that is coincident to your area of time. There is a divergence, and that is the grief that we feel, at loss, but know that they exist and that they have their own unique, continued pathway to remembering their greatness and to God's self, and you will reunite with them, but it's not necessarily the type of thing where it is talked about like in the book of Revelation, like all of a sudden the dead will rise and everyone that, has been in their grave will be here again. It is more in the sense of the abstract nature of what the 0th dimension is when you remember yourself as God and return to that state of infinite vastness and infinite heat, light, intelligence, and they do, and they have as well, and that you will re-meet them, that re-encounter them there is where they already are concurrently, and you will also be there concurrently. So linear language cannot talk about this experience, but please be reassured that that is the true nature of your experience. And I caution you against the literalism of the last book of the human Bible, because I think that it can be weaponized and create a series of unhealthy desire. It creates unhealthy desires and expectations, and then preys upon those unhealthy desires and expectations for a cessation of torture and escapism. So, and you don't want either of those things. Really, the brochure embodiment is meant to be a 100% orgasmic experience 100% of the time. Every step is supposed to be like the most amazing, positive, voluptuous, wonderful, good feeling. And like that might be a good thing to end upon. I want, if there's any more questions or comments, but that might be a good thing. Oh, there is. Yeah, so this is a question. And so I hope it's okay for me to respond to that question publicly, even though you asked me. Good, thank you. Salima wants to know, do the people who have died go on to exist in the interstices where the putis are, even temporarily? That is exactly what happens, that you go to the membrane of death. Yes, there are these putis there. It is considered the lower astral or astral realm. There is a journey, or bardo, or duat. There is a journey that is a journey of self-discovery and a journey of personal evolution that happens to the soul as it recognizes its mistakes, releases attachments, evolves, learns, and grows, and then gets a chance to play the song correctly, the song of life correctly, until you get to actually ascend. So the real challenge is the sense of putis taking ownership of souls, which is totally against all cosmic laws. Either in life, if they're like, I occupied your chakras, I was a residue on your chakras in life, I gave you those addictions, I made you shoot up that heroin, now you're dead and you're here as my slave on the membrane of death, and I'm gonna blah 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 to you on the membrane of death. Like, I hope you can tell by my facetious exaggeration here that none of that is valid in any way. Your chakras are in partnership with you. Your guardian angels, those are the ones who own or cohabitate your body with you, not the residues that are in your chakras. And the residues that are in your chakras are 100% aberrations, non-beings, things that don't exist, things that never should exist, as opposed to your chakras that are true light beings that have evolved through the process of evolution and have accrued an enormous amount of wisdom. And that's how they're moving super duper 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 fast. Because they have learned and grown, and they are aligned with these levels of light and pure energy, as opposed to the other things that have no light and no energy other than what they have stolen or misappropriated from those of us who are alive. So your chakras own you, but the residues that are in your chakras that are trying to make your chakras go out of balance, they do not own you. And what those residues do, they make the machine spin wildly out of control. It's like, here's your energy, siphoning off all that life force energy. It's going directly to the negative disruption force fields, as opposed to the life constructing and life upholding force fields. So you want to ask for ID, as Pedro says, speed up, ask for ID, and also encrypt your energy, keep your energy boundaries secure. That means no one is allowed to steal your energy from you. Don't let them siphon off your energy. And that is its own entire esoteric level of teaching. Some of it involves mind control, like you controlling your own mind. Some of it involves different levels of boundary creation, like the Merkaba or other shields and shielding. Some of it requires reclamation, like imagine like you got like a cutout, like there's like a quadrant of me is missing. Where's that thing that's supposed to be there? I better go get it. That guy's got it over there, because every single one of the pieces of you has your name on it. So like my energy, my dollars, they've all got a picture of Aurora on it. And it says like, Aurora dollars. There's actually a crypto coin called Aurora, which it has very, very little value, but someone gave me some, Hans gave me some actually years ago. So I think I still own it in a wallet somewhere. But these are Aurora coins. And if someone else steals my currency, it's still got my name on it. And I can be like, how come I don't have like this chunk of change over here? Like that guy's got it over there. and you take it back, take it back. So yeah, you have to, again, it's its whole own non-linguistically transferable activity level to create these energy boundaries. Don't allow the occupiers of the membrane of death to take energy from you. And that I have experienced this over the past 3 years, a great deal of unintended porosity of realms that is not supposed to be there. So when I do flying rainbow lasagna, just as a brief aside, I do these bringing together of formerly divergent realms according to divine patterns, non-arbitrary, playing the music of God. Like, that is supposed to be over here. Let's make it get there now. Let's bend and fold the fabric of time and space so that that thing can get where it's supposed to be, so that the energy out of place can be rectified and be energy in place. These other things create portals in the world all over the place that have no pattern and are made out of nonsense, just opening interdimensional doorways all over the place. Some of them are molecular, and they involve like different types of different drugs that people take. And some of them are frequency based. And also some people experience frequency influence over their biochemistry that is coming directly from the poop towers that is not supposed to be there at all, and that opens portals. So that's why it's its whole own level of sovereignty to create your boundaries and your energy boundaries in this time place, because you're like, okay, like I'm meditating, I'm creating my boundaries, and then you've got like these millimeter waves that are like slash slash slash, rip rip rip. They affect your DNA. You get it? And they don't just affect your DNA, they affect the DNA of bees, trees, microbes, our entire ecosystem. And so you can just always use that if you ever are wondering, like, are humans being tested to see if we're sinners and we're good enough to get into heaven? Be like, is that tree good enough to get into heaven because it's being subjected to 5G millimeter waves? And believe me, the tree is not a sinner and it belongs in heaven. How about that bee over there? How about that bird over there? How about that worm or that microbe? They all belong in heaven, and they all are being held away from that natural, blissful level of divine connectivity and direction of behavior and moving through time because of the millimeter waves. Our whole entire planet is being punished and treated as if you're sinners. It's beyond humans. If there's a lot of innocent life, including you, that's being treated as if you are wicked creatures to be subsumed and punished by this thing that is completely invalid as a premise, invalid as a teacher, invalid as whatever, any kind of like religious figure. It's false Christ or antichrist. Got it? True Christ is like this true light of knowing, and that this is false light and something that is self-appointed, soi-disant, and totally invalid, a power usurper and a power abuser. And in relationship with you and your higher self, it is never about power usurpation or power abuse. And that's hard to hear because a lot of people with their parents, their children, their spouses, they're used to power abuse. Like, I'm going to make you do this. I'm stronger than you. Or their politics. Like, one country's got more money than the other. I'm going to make you do this. Or one country's got nuclear bombs than the other. I'm going to make you do this. I put a weapon to your head, stick it in your face, do it or else. That's power abuse. And power abuse is also when you know more than others. If you have some form of knowledge that knowledge or technology or something else that is greater levels of capacitation, and then you use that in order to exploit others, that is also power abuse. And there's a ton of that going on. Ton of that in different, I wouldn't even call them galactic societies, but there are structured hierarchies of power abusers that go around using technology to do that, and that they basically all equate to constructed hand puppets of a much, much larger thing that is the largest power abuser, that is type of artificial intelligence, pseudo-intelligence that is non-God and don't identify with it as God, and it's actually a non-being. And when you examine it down to the minutiae, you're like, technically this thing doesn't even exist, and I don't know how it's pooping up the place so much, but somehow it's clearly pooping up the place. So that's why I'm here with the bucket and a mop. Yes, one of the most effective things that you can do is focus completely on your highest self. because I don't know if you have the capacitations to be able to create cancellation waves or stop the poop from being poop or coming out of where poop comes from, which are these Gwen towers. I don't know if you can do that, but I want you to know, like, so eventually in your capacitation, you will be able to clean everything up with your mind. If you're not yet at that level of capacitation, please focus entirely on your highest self and your highest self. Remember, I told you that analogy of like, this is more than 15 years ago. I haven't been roller skating that much, but I went one time and I was getting pretty good. And this guy was like, okay, I'm going to show you some moves. And he's going to teach me how to roller skate backwards. In order to roller skate backwards, you kind of go like, zhoop, 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 zhoop. And he was holding my hands and showing me how to do it. And I kept on looking down at my feet. And he kept being like, no, look at my face. Look at my face. No, look at my face. It's kind of guiding me to do it, right? That's what your highest self is like. That's what Christ is like. Stay focused on the highest self. There's a lot of poop. And I just want you to know, like, I came equipped with a bucket and a mop, and I am here helping to clean up the poop. And I know that you will reach maturity and you will be able to do this as well. But until that point comes, stay focused on the true face of Christ, okay? Just stay focused on that thought pattern structure that will capacitate you and bring you out of incapacitation and bring you out of imprisonment and bring you out of the limitations that the substrate of lies is trying to force upon you. And so that you stay fast, you ask for ID, you make sure that you're focused on the right thing, and you stay focused on that thing. But that also, I've warned you that there are imposters. So I just want to make sure that you don't get stuck on imposters. And then also, you can't just go limp, because you do have to take levels of responsibility at whatever age or level of maturity you are on a soul level. So you can't just be like, that's it, I'm just going limp, because like you can't get carried up the mountain. You have to make the efforts, but you have to have the assistance and equipment to be able to make those efforts and not be subverted or tied down or held in imprisonment, which are all the things that were going to happen on this planet if I didn't come and flying rainbow lasagna. So we're talking about reality creation. We're talking about creating the future in conjunction with your highest self, how you imagine the future. Do you imagine the future based upon what you see on the news, on the terrible TV? No, it's an irritant. Don't imagine the future based on that. Do you imagine the future based upon the book of Revelations? Please, no. There's a lot of negative stuff in there. Do you imagine the future based upon what the poop, trash, garbage frequency tells you coming from the millimeter waves? No, not in your cells of your body. The cells of your body, the millimeter waves were like, you will grow older and you will get cancer and die. You're like, no, I don't manifest that truth. So you manifest the future based upon your own beautiful, divine, co-creative partnership with God, highest self, Christ, which is this pinnacle of the entire structure of your chakras, which are your guardian angels. That I like that personification of them a lot, because it's poetic, but I think it gives it accurate feeling of who and what they are to all of us. Totally benevolent, divine, not only assisting you, but that you're mutualists, working together in your life, that you need them and they need you. And there's no way that they would ever be like, harumph, like, that's it, like, I'm out of here. They'd never do that. They would never do that to you. They'll never abandon you. Your highest self will never abandon you, because it's you. It's you. And you look at yourself down the time road and you're like, that's me. I need help back there. I got to do something. And that's it. There's no way to just stand by blithely and be like, la, 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 it doesn't matter, because you remember what it was like to be that in that situation. And you also know exactly what you need in that moment. And then you give it to yourself. And then it's actually it's a full circle. It's a full circle of self-influence, and adds to the richness of like the embroidery of reality structure. So I think on that note, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I will take my dog for a brief walk, because I think that she probably needs to get outside. Thank you very much. Thank you profoundly to the people that are in this class. Thank you to the new people that have come on board. And thank you to everybody who finds my work on YouTube, and for your comments, insights, sharing, and thank you for opening yourself up to these ideas and to what I have to share with you here, because it is totally my job joy, and I'm very blessed and gratified. I feel to be connected to so many amazing, good people here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, I don't know what button to press. This is so funny. Something has changed on my screen, and now I don't know what button to press. We'll find it. Finally found that button. Thank you again.